Welcome, dearest retainers, to Court of Blades, and welcome to Valloward, the greatest city in this or any other age. A city where hearts race and swords flash, where intrigue and danger lie around every corner. Centuries ago, celebrated veterans were given title to Valor Isle, a place long abandoned by its first residents. Here, the heroes found ancient secrets, bountiful land, and a fruit bearing oracular gifts. Generations later, 6 families vie for ultimate control of this jewel of the archipelago, each seeking to lead the great dance of houses. A new retinue rises to clash with flashing blades, veiled plots, and powerful magics in pursuit of their house's interests and their own secret ambitions. Speculate presents Valloward, a Court of Blades campaign, starring Premee Mohamed, Marie Bilodeau, Brandon O'Brien, Gregory A. Wilson, and your dancing master, Michael R. Underwood. Be welcome, retainer. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. It's time for Court of Blades.
Yes, indeed. Welcome, everyone. Welcome all to Speculate. First of all, welcome to the channel. It is Friday, January 27th, 2023, about 16 minutes after 8 p.m., 17 minutes after 8 p.m. Eastern. I hope everyone is doing well, and welcome to a Speculate event as we move into Session 4 of Court of Blades Valloward. We are very excited to have you on board with all of us today, and we hope that everyone is doing well and is looking forward to what we expect is going to be a very fun session to come. Very quickly, as a reminder to all, if you want to support what we do here at Speculate, please check out !Speculate in the chat, and you can head over and support our Patreon, our actual play show, which just wrapped up Girl by Moonlight Fractal Spire. We are going to have more stuff coming up in the very near future where that campaign was, but we've also, of course, got Court of Blades Valloward going on here. We also have special episodes and events and things like that, so please check us out here. Also, if you are here on the channel live with us, please follow my channel, twitch.tv/ArvanElleron, and you can find all sorts of commands to support us there, the YouTube channel and things like that. The YouTube also has playlists of Speculate's current and previous shows, so you can also check us out there because that is always appreciated, and we would love to be able to have all of you on board for that. But I am very excited to have this going on. One quick programming note, which is that tomorrow on my channel, we will feature the return of Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks, sponsored by Alligator Alley Entertainment. It is a 5th edition compatible thing, and if you've heard the news today, it looks like that's not going away, and that's very nice. So very, very happy to hear that news. So you'll get a chance to see more of that tomorrow, Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks with the amazing crew, and then next week will be the premiere of Shire Adventures, sponsored by Free League, happening on Tuesday. That's going to be an awesome time at 5 p.m. Eastern on this channel as well. But today, the discussion that we're having is about Speculate, and so I'm going to unmute myself, apologize to anyone in that chat that I might have inadvertently interrupted, and then I'm going to unmute them, and I'm going to head over to reveal the incredible group that you can see before you of Speculate and specifically Court of Blades players, and we are ready. Mike has informed us beforehand that essentially we have already won, so the city is ours. And so this is now just a matter of no, that was what I interpreted from what you said. No, it's going to be fun times though. I'm looking forward to it, and I want to hand things over to our incredible dancing master, Michael R. Underwood, my friend. Welcome, and over to you.
That would be a very different way of opening the series, as we begin with effectively the Valloward throne room scene, and then we I do a voiceover, or I bring in Trendane to do a voiceover, and then we do a flashback.
Somehow Vorster returned.
No, I was thinking BattleTech.
Oh, okay, all right, fair. Yes, sure, I could see that.
Since I know you've already played that on this channel.
Indeed.
So, hi, I'm Mike Underwood. I will be your dancing master this evening, aka the GM for our campaign Valloward, playing Court of Blades by a couple of drakes. The overlay that you see here was based on assets provided to us by a couple of drakes. They have been lovely to work with, so I want to make sure to shout them out. And I believe we have a command that will include the link to Court of Blades, the game itself. If not, I'll jump over and throw one in the chat.
No, there is one. We just have it. There we go.
Lovely.
I believe it's that.
Yes, thank you, Arv. So it has been a bit of time since we played because we were not able to play in December due to end of year festivities and things like that. So we're going to do some recap. If you have a little bit of a foggy memory about what was going on, you are in good company and we will take care of you. Everything will be fine. Valloward is a game of swashbuckling, intrigue, magic, and more in a kind of Renaissance-ish version of the Caribbean, as co-created by the players and including Marie Bilodeau, who's not able to join us tonight. So we have built this space together, and Rhiannon, our guest star, has kind of added to what the world of magic and how magic feels and practices to be able to kind of make kind of her own stamp on the world, for which I'm very grateful. And we're going to continue that work as we play this lovely game. Court of Blades is a forged in the dark game, which means we kind of focus on the fiction. The action is always moving forward. It is a very collaborative game where I will often kind of declaim narrative authority and ask a player, like, oh, what do you think this looks like? Or what do you think makes sense here? I really like this approach, being a novelist and a storyteller and one who is inclined toward collaboration. I think that it has been especially fun playing with fellow professional storytellers as we can kind of just stunt and throw things back and forth. And I'm excited to continue that work today. I will ask the players to introduce themselves. I'm just going to put the order here into chat so that they know, and I'm not surprising them when I call on them. Starting with Premee.
Hi all, hi chat. Thanks again for coming out. My name is Premee Mohamed. I'm a scientist, novelist, and short fiction writer based in Edmonton, Alberta. So actually it is not as late for me as it is for some of these other players. Haha. My character is named Lutris. He's a Kuth, that's his class. And he's very proud to be serving the House Forster and still has very much a chip on his shoulder from what he believes to be historical dishonors done to his family. And he rose from the gutter and has a bad habit of solving problems by hitting people and lying.
Hitting people and lying. Okay, great. Rhiannon.
Hey, I'm Rhiannon Held. I write urban fantasy novels under Rhiannon Held and a space opera novella series under RZ Held. In my day job, I am a professional archaeologist, and I'm playing Jianxia, who is the knack of this team.
All right, Brandon.
Hello, everybody. It is me, Brandon O'Brien. I am a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago, as well as one of the co-hosts of the Speculate podcast alongside Mike and Greg. You may know me from all of the other things that take place on this channel. No. You may know me in particular as the game designer for the Grey Shade RPG coming very soon. As well as the host of the recently closed Speculate series, Girl by Moonlight Fractal Spire, which I hope you are listening to or have listened to on the website whenever you do get the chance. But tonight, instead of being a GM, I am now playing, and I will be playing Zelfa Hamill, the Key, descendant.
Uh-oh.
Very well, but also lots of feelings about the island itself. Oh no! Please tell me you got all of that.
You froze up a little bit. You're back.
Yes.
We heard something about the island at the end. But we got
Yes.
lost in the middle.
I have lots of feelings about House Vorsta trying to do their best for the island, but I also have a lot of feelings about the island itself.
Awesome.
All right, Greg, and if you want to introduce your character, I suppose mostly.
So welcome everybody. I already talked about me. And my character is Carevis Dorencio. I am the Bravo, and am responsible for dramatically and performatively maintaining the honor of the house, one might say. And I do think it's important to note that our crew has recently annihilated a gang. I just want that to be clear, that we annihilated a gang and that we're making up T-shirts to make sure that that's clear. We annihilate gangs when needed. So I just wanted that out there. The eels are no more. So.
Have you had problems with the eels lately? No? You're welcome.
Thank a Vorster. If you're happy not to have eels, thank a Vorster.
This is very funny because in a Blades in the Dark game that I run, the mastermind character, the spider, has made a whole eel shtick. So I cannot escape the eels no matter how much I try.
It's funny. The eels will always go somewhere.
Yep. So yeah, as I said, I am Mike. I am the GM for this. I'm a science fiction and fantasy writer, mostly of action adventure stories. You can pick up my urban fantasy series that starts with Geekomancy, wherever good books are sold, and some places where okay books are sold. And I am a player in the recently wrapped Fractal Spire, as well as one of the co-hosts of Speculate. You can, in fact, right now go to our cool new website at speculatesf.com. Our podcast RSS feed is back up, and we are kind of repopulating it due to some problems that resulted from the old website crashing and having to migrate it. So that has been a great deal of work. I have been assisted in this by Brad Bullier, our former co-host, who handled some of the back-end stuff, as well as Greg and Brandon. And I thank everyone who is watching and listening for your patience while we were getting that back up and running. But we are here. We are back. There are swords. We've got magic. We've got a magic maglev train system. We've got annihilated gangs. We've got some spooky stuff that's about to happen. We are here to have a good time. So when last we met with the lovely retainers of House Vorster, they were taking kind of time to themselves as well as attending to the house's work. The messengers of House Vorster, as they are styled. So during the downtime phase, the characters can attend to their own needs. They can relieve the stress that they've accumulated during their work. They attend to the exposure that the retinue kind of created during their work. Kind of basically, you want to smooth over some rough edges, make some apologies where you may need to, pursue some leads on other jobs and things like that. And last time we had Petros, a former eel, now vassal of House Vorster, brought into the kind of into the fold by Lutris because they kind of came up from the same neighborhood and had some history. Carevis went for counsel back to kind of the church that he likely attended as a youth and has had a long relationship with Cartagano, Father Cartagano, the priest there. Zelfa went to attend to some matters amongst the local Dialta community, the Dialta being the original inhabitants of what is now known as Valor Isle, who, for reasons that are their own, left the island entirely several hundred years ago, leaving not a lot of a trace, but either their departure was oversold, or some of them have returned. And so there are a number of Dialta within Valloward in a strange, like, these are the indigenous people of this island, but also things are more complicated in a different way, and there are secrets about it. So Brandon has done a lovely job of making a complicated bit of work for himself, in which I'm only happy to further investigate. As Brandon said last time, sorry, you said something about like a thread and a spool last time. It was very funny. I should just let you say it.
I remember having said something clever, and now I can't remember what it was.
I think it was something like that Brandon said, I tugged on a thread and Mike handed me the whole spool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sounds about right.
So we are really in it with that. So there is some housing shenanigans happening with some factions attempting to oust members of Dialta communities by evicting an entire building's worth of porters. And there is some other shenanigans there. Gensia worked on her magical skills, trying to kind of refine a technique that did not go as planned in the kind of ambush with the eels. And then there was a bit of a conversation between Gensia and Zelfa coming at magic from their own cultural perspectives, which I just got to kind of be an audience for and delight as a fantasy writer to watch two colleagues kind of bring their experience and filter it through these characters, which was all very fun. And now, with kind of downtime mostly, if not entirely attended to, we will join the messengers of House Vorster as they decide what they are going to do next in pursuit of their house's goals. As a reminder, at the beginning of the season, it is spring in Valloward. The kind of heir to the house handed the messengers a dossier with several priorities, business of the house, and left them with the initiative to pursue on their own which of these matters they thought would be most important to the house. And so each season, the group is given more things to do than they have time to do, and then other things will emerge over the course of play as a result of entanglements or things like that. The goal here is to keep the crew or the team kind of always on their toes and make the group kind of have to push and strive to be able to accomplish different things. And then stuff will snowball and kind of build. Whereas if you don't attend to this one thing, it's not going to stop being a problem. It's probably going to get worse. And so I turn to you all, the players. Where do we think we see this set of 4 retainers as you discuss what to do next?
I mean, I'd like to pitch us being, it's spring, right? So relatively warm. So I would like to pitch us being out on a balcony of House Vorster, overlooking perhaps a fish pond, which is in the courtyard, which sort of had fallen in disrepair, but has gradually, we're gradually working on it, kind of building it back up. So it's down in the courtyard. Maybe there are a couple of children that are sort of playing in the courtyard down below. And I would imagine, Karevis is like sort of leaning back in a chair with his feet up on the railing. And there's a table, I would imagine, next to us, like a small table on which this like scroll basically with the 3 options are there. And I'm like, so I'm leaning back with my feet up, and I just say, all right then, what's up next? I assume the next thing is we have to figure out a way to get some more fish in the pond. Yes, we do something like that, or perhaps we have another gang we have to destroy. What do you think, Lutrus? We've taken care of the eels. Perhaps who's next on the tech? Maybe we just take every gang out, and then we wipe them all out, and the city is ours. What do how about that?
I like this plan. I actually keep a list of the gangs in my room. But as for the fish, I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy's sister. And then I noticed the scroll. Oh, wait a minute. I understand we have some suggestions here.
The fish will have to wait. So it's right there. So I guess we could just look over and be like, Zelfa, what does it say? If it's not about fish, I don't know.
If it's not about fish or alcohol, I'm not interested. It's too nice of a day.
Yeah. A butterfly has landed on the railing. We're just looking at it.
I'm very sorry that you're all having a wonderful time, but we do have work to do. That's what this is about.
The fish pond is work. Is it on the scroll?
Unfortunately, there's nothing like that.
Always duty calls. All right, what does it say? And can we, like, one of us, I guess, just unroll it or something and see what it says, Mike, as far as
Yeah.
what
So
is in front of us?
I can briefly recap,
Yeah,
and or I can put the text in our chat if someone would like to kind of read or paraphrase it in character. So the first priority was that there is an elixir known as Javeli's Luck that has made it onto the streets. This is either some kind of magic potion or drug, perhaps. It grants uncanny luck and fearlessness to those that take it, but this has led to a rash of crimes and public disruptions. You've been tasked with obtain some of the elixir for our study, find out who is supplying it, ensure that it does not disturb the peace any further. Item 2 says Red Crow, a member of the Sentinels, has requested support in the tracking and removal of a particularly nasty creature that has been haunting the Green Sea. The Green Sea is a large agricultural forest toward the middle of the island. So that one, we're hoping that we, out of character, we are hoping that we'll be able to have Marie join us, since Marie's character is kind of tied to this faction. The third item says a sealed tomb in Veterans Rest has been broken open. Whatever horrors or treasures it once contained, it is empty now. Investigate this callous act of vandalism, seek out what the criminals sought to accomplish, and present them to the city's justice. The fourth item you have already handled, because it is a reminder that the house's reputation was stained by the attack that the Eels conducted during Founders Day, but that is taken care of.
So I think I'll be like, the sealed tomb.
Hmm.
It's a tomb that was sealed and is not sealed any longer. That seems
Yes, that's what the scroll would imply.
a sealed tomb. Interesting.
Back when I was working as a mercenary in the Low, the leader of our group, we sometimes called him the Godfather, always told us, stay away from anything related to organized drug smuggling, drug running, drug dealing, anything like that. The elixir one, maybe we'll hold off on that. Unsealing a tomb is very offensive, though. Just desecrating the dead. How dare.
And I look over at Jency and I'm like, Jency, is there any suggestion about magic that is stolen from these places? There are magic artifacts, religious and magical ones, to be found in tombs, yes? Is this...
Well, I'd have to go there to see, which, I mean, I would be happy. Just, now that it is open, I mean, we shouldn't lose any of the information that we might find out about what was in it.
Oh,
since
yes.
it's already open.
This belongs in the museum, yes, surely. And I sort of like, and I'm like, well, I suppose it's already unsealed, so we wouldn't be doing anything dangerous to it. There is, of course, the concern about what happens if it gets sealed while we're back in it, but I imagine we can deal with that if we have to. Whose tomb is it, Mike? Does it say whose tomb specifically? Did I miss that?
The write-up did not, but I think it is trivial to kind of compare the notes that you were given to the kind of the records that House Forster has. So there's no need to roll. It is in fact the tomb of a founding era hero, one of the original members of the Fairest before they became House Fairest.
Interesting. I need to quickly check where House Fairest. What tier are they? Okay, hang on a second. Faction relationships. Oh, they're above us too.
Yeah. And so this is the tomb of Julian Villanzo, who was a mercenary in the same wars that the veterans who were granted title were fighting in. But because Vilanso was a mercenary, he did not receive title from the nation that that kind of gifted Valor Isle to those original veterans. And so Vilanso is a contemporary of the founding members of the Vorsters and the Corinnes, but being kind of outside of the official landed populace, joined a number of other mercenaries in founding that faction of the Fairest, who folks may remember were kind of a like a do-gooder people's champion type organization. Over time, they grew in size and influence and eventually became House Fairest and joined the great game of houses. So they've become a much bigger deal than they were, but they were still an important faction at the time. And so Vilanso has a fairly fancy tomb, and was entombed at Veterans Rest, which was largely reserved for kind of those original founders who were granted title. Veterans Rest is a graveyard that was made by the Vallowed rather than a kind of pre-Vallowed necropolis or anything that would have been made by the Dialta.
Is there any? Did we get this information? Was this issue brought to us at all, or brought to the attention of House Forster by representatives of House Fairest? How did we find out about the fact that this tomb was unsealed?
So the Veterans Rest is, I believe, under the influence of one of the other factions. So House Sapphire is ostensibly responsible for Veterans Rest, but one of your kind of spies / intelligenceers kind of overheard the news getting to House Sapphire, and basically brought this matter to the attention of the house. House Vorster kind of takes responsibility for the security and safety of all of Valloward, kind of as a matter of pride, even if officially they are not empowered to / responsible for this thing. So it's kind of a protectiveness or an honor thing. And Vorster's status kind of raises as people reflect on and basically give import to the founding era, because Vorster were the first nobles of this settlement.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a few different reasons why it is on Morgaine's kind of to-do list for you.
But Fairest doesn't know, I mean, because this is Sapphire's problem, but Fairest doesn't know about this yet then, presumably, or do they?
That you do not have information about yet. That would be something you'd need to investigate.
Okay, so we don't know how House Sapphire found out about it either, or?
They would have found out from one of the kind of basically the graveyard attendants.
Okay.
So
like just routine maintenance, and they noticed the tomb had been broken into and emptied out.
Yep. Okay. Or specifically, the tomb was open. I don't know that there was specific information that would say it was broken into. So that's going to be something you'll need to establish yourselves.
Well, then I suppose we need to find out at some point whether House Ferris knows about this. But in the meantime, I suppose we need to go look at the tomb, yes?
Off we go.
I vault the railing right into the pool. No, I'm just kidding. I don't do that.
I take the stairs.
Right. By the time you get down, I'm just carefully placing the fish back into the pool.
Right. Okay. Because Veterans Rest is under kind of House Sapphire's sphere of influence, there is some question as to whether you would want to basically get permission to conduct business there. That is something that would be that's like, you might get less exposure if you get House Sapphire's permission to do an investigation like that. You could alternatively sneak in and hope that nobody notices you. But I'm curious.
So this is obviously not like a public graveyard or anything. This is what, fenced? This is like,
yeah, I would say that
private property. Like people can't go and pay homage to their family's veterans or anything. Leave a wreath, leave some flowers.
I think it's less that than if the four of you go to Veterans Rest and are clearly poking around, people are going to say that is not four individuals paying their respects. That those are the messengers of Vorster, then they are doing business here.
Maybe we should just give them a heads up then. Little chat.
My only concern about that is what happens if House Sapphire was partially connected to this. I mean, if they run security, someone gets through, someone looked the other way, and we tell them that that's going to happen, then we may very well have a situation where the tomb gets sealed up behind us, right? Like, I don't know. I mean, I agree that certainly not. Karevis is not Mr. Stealthy, so but just I'm wondering whether we want to know more details about whether we want to be letting people know that we're poking around, especially because we may not even, because it's possible that House Ferris doesn't even know about this yet, and that could be something else too that we would want to consider, kind of figuring out and jockeying for position. So I don't know. I'm not like, strongly one way or the other, but I do wonder a little bit about letting the people that already let the horse out of the barn know that we're going to go check the barn and see if there are any, more horses in there or something.
Well, and correct me if my memory is wrong, but didn't we sort of just not have enough evidence to say that Sapphire are the ones who gave the eels their magic? So I worried that they'd see it as yet another opportunity to hinder Vorster business.
Right.
So,
yeah.
But I thought last time we managed to at least have a reasonably good chat with them and maybe impress them. What are the likely consequences if we do go in there and are spotted by, like an attendant or something poking around, and the attendant rushes over to narc on us? What's House Sapphire's response likely to be, do we think?
If he never
Do we wear like
arrives,
our fanciest outfits on this mission, or would that help?
Expected responses could range from like Sapphire guards coming to remove you. Not super likely. That would be suspicious, but you would expect that at least someone from Sapphire would come to Vorster and call on you to inquire about why you were doing this. So like part of what, like, you don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but they also don't want to ruffle too many feathers. The thing about the great game is that you want to win and have it look effortless. You can't just win the fight. You have to have done so while your outfit is still amazing,
right?
Because like beauty is is elevated culturally, and so like that effortlessness, or the sprezzatura in Italian, like that's really highly valued. And so there's this dichotomous thing in Valloward politics where everybody's working really, really hard, trying to not look like they're working hard.
Mm-hmm.
So better to ask for forgiveness than permission is the impression I'm getting.
That's up to you.
And if they do show up, right, and they do say like, well, we noticed you in there, or if we happen to have discovered, several ripped pieces of cloak which say the rune S on it or something. You know what I mean? We could be like, oh, it's funny you should mention that. Well, look what I have right here. If it isn't a House Sapphire note of writ of seizure of the tomb or whatever. My point being that, like, I would rather, I don't know, my thought is that it's easier, to beg forgiveness and permission. It's also easier to counterpunch because we don't know what we're dealing with yet. Especially because the Sapphire situation, you're right, we had a decent conversation with them, but we're still, as Gencia pointed out, still are not really sure exactly about where Sapphire was vis-a-vis the eels. So we may not yet know the drill with them. I mean, yeah, if it was one of those things that they catch us and they're like, this is an enormous breach of protocol, this is war, then that would be another thing. But I feel like we can smooth over some feathers, right? maybe, if we have to.
Yeah. I'm also inclined to believe that this would be ideal because the worst case scenario is we don't find anything in between.
Right.
Because so long as we can provide evidence that we were investigating, then we look good when we get there, because House Sapphire wasn't investigating.
That's true, actually. That would be a good chance for us to maybe be elevated in the position. Like, we understand that security is difficult, and that's why we at House Vorster have provided,
Right. Going and offering your services as investigators is one way that you might combine several approaches.
Oh, to them officially, you mean?
Right, because you kind of put them in a bind, right? If they refuse, then they really have to do it on their own. But if they accept, then they couldn't do it on their own. So that might be a slightly more aggressive move, but it's certainly in the playbook of the Great Houses.
Can we offer it as like a favor, like telling them it's a favor and saving them time because we know they're so busy, but otherwise we know for sure they would be investigating this, and therefore putting a small amount of pressure on them to not be like, no, what unsealed tomb?
I think that is absolutely an option. Should you
Okay.
want to take that approach?
The game is played a lot by trading favors.
Yep.
And sometimes we have to convince people that a favor is a favor and not an imposition.
Right.
Yeah.
Zelfa,
I don't know
what
if
do
we
you
can
think
do
about
that
all
this
this?
time.
I think doing it formally would be a great opportunity to show that we have the upper hand in the circumstances that we've presently experienced. Suffice it to say that House Sapphire has no concrete evidence that we know that the eel plot was theirs. But if I recall our interaction correctly, we spent a lot of energy just letting them know, hey, we're still here. We're stronger than you thought that we were. So it'd be hilarious to put them in the position to owe us a favor for cleaning up a mess that they may be potentially attempting to cover up on their own. Because no matter what that situation entails, we get to cash in that favor in a way that will potentially embarrass them for sticking the eels on us in the first place. Which would be hilarious to me.
Yeah, if they see it as a favor, as was pointed out. But yeah, I mean, that can be our job to do it. Is there, I know the Myriad Pens, Mike, are the writers in theater. Is there an equivalent of journalists in Valloward, and an equivalent of someone who publishes, broadsheets or something like that, pamphlets, Is there anyone that would cover that description?
Let me double check my notes here, because there is a broadsheet guild in the Ilrien, kind of the core book play set.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I have one that is as such. Well, I have the Brave Brush. Let me double check my notes here. I too have not gotten to play this in a while. Because if they're not, then we'll just invent a new faction, because there should be a broadsheets group.
While Mike's looking that up, this is my thought. There are two ways to do this. I thought of it when Mike started saying this would be a more aggressive move, and I'm like, more aggressive move. So one option is that we let the person know that we are looking into a potential, not using this term, but security breach that may or may not have been involving House Sapphire, basically promising them kind of like an exclusive, which can then be used either to tell the person, okay, go ahead and publish the story, or, essentially put the story out there if Sapphire needs to have a shot across the bow, or don't publish it if we need not only have we done you a favor, we will do you a further favor by not revealing the fact that you are incapable of guarding a tomb of a veteran by having that story. Or, and this is the most aggressive move, and though I think it would be a lot of fun, maybe is too much, bringing the journalist literally, or the equivalent of it, with us, So we're like, you recognize, don't you? You know, blah, blah, blah. So that it's literally like on the record in terms of whether
Sure.
Sapphire allows us to go in and do that. I acknowledge that is very forward, but, you know, I don't know. And so those were my thoughts about including a third party, because it might also give us a benefit with that party if we're giving them kind of an exclusive or the equivalent.
So the Broadsheets faction is called the Daily Blessing, which is the name of the broadsheet itself.
Hell yeah. The Daily Blessing, you know.
So they are now on the factions list under Houses Minor.
Somewhat cynically, I
By
like
the
the
way,
idea of
that's
embedding
our
a journalist
broadsheets.
with us. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say it's very ironic that our broadsheets guild is called the Daily Blessing when we know for a fact that at least on an hourly basis someone dies in Valloward that makes for the front page of this thing.
Well, I think some might say the Daily Blessing is that today it wasn't you.
Heyo.
But yes, Premee, you were saying.
Sorry, no, I was just saying, relatedly, somewhat cynically, I don't mind the idea of having someone embedded with us as sort of someone to shove into the tomb in case it suddenly does start to close again.
I mean, I was just want to make sure that they knew they were dealing with the story on House Sapphire. I mean, I hadn't thought about them as cannon fodder, but that is, of course, you know, an option.
I grew up in the gutter. I think of everybody as cannon fodder except me.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I don't know if we should bring someone with us or just promise them the details later, because I guess it's a matter of credibility too. Ours
Right.
should be fairly good after, you know, our heroic work last time. Our
Right.
stature's kind of gone up in the city. We're known as investigators. How else did we figure out how to get the entire Eel clan?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So we've got a little bit of a rep. Are we considered trustworthy enough to report on this by ourselves? Are journalists considered trustworthy?
I think the Daily Blessing is not considered especially trustworthy by the nobility, but has a great deal of influence within the populace. Because of course the nobility would rather be able to control the narrative themselves. But yeah, like it's kind of sliders of how subtle versus overt.
Yeah.
How much do you want to be seen versus not seen? And I would say, from my perspective, there is no right answer. It's a question of approach and execution.
What if we approach House Sapphire to offer the favor and casually mention the Daily Blessing?
And if you didn't
In a
take the favor,
in a casual
we
fashion.
might just talk to casually.
Yeah. Our good friend Jeff here, and Jeff's like shivering in the background. Okay, fine. Jeff. Okay, Jeff is not a very good Valloward name. You know who I'm talking about.
Jeffaward, yes. No, clearly. No, we stumbled across them coming in, right? We just happened to find he was just standing outside and looked so forlorn with a blank sheet. And yeah, we could do that. Yeah, I don't want to overcomplicate. I thought there might be another way to have a third neutral party that we could get benefit with and also provide us a little bit of leverage in case House Sapphire. Because what I do not want is for House Sapphire to just be like, well, we will do you the favor. Like, no. It is, as it turns out, something that's helpful to us, but that's not the point. We want them to feel like they're indebted to us, not the other way around. So I feel like a bit of leverage might help with that. But again, I don't want to like bring in extra problems if we don't.
Maybe we should just go there and see what happens next.
That's totally fine.
Could also do
I
that.
mean, Gencia is down for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very quiet during all this politicking. She's just like, yes, we can go and we can see what's there.
We could just look. I could bring a wreath.
So we headed to Veterans Rest.
Let's do it.
Okay, you're there.
All right, that's her show, and
this is the power of cut to the action. So yeah, Veterans Rest is a very well kept kind of there. I think there's probably a couple of graveyards on the island because the city has grown large enough that there's kind of the fancy people one, and there's probably one or two that are more kind of are toward the lower end. You're more likely to get, cenotaphs and graves than you are to get mausoleums at those graveyards. Here we have a greater number of mausoleums, not because of like the water level or anything like you might get in New Orleans or something, but because they're fancy. And so there's a number of fairly ornate tombs and mausoleums, various important members of the great houses over time. These are all very nicely kept. There is like a fine crawling vine on the fencing all around, which gives the graveyard its privacy. But once you're on the inside, you get like fairly immaculate grounds. Because how Sapphire has influence, there is a bit of like, it's kind of always a little, in our world, Halloween-y at the graveyard, because Sapphire are one of the more mystically inclined factions. So I think there are, there are frequently seers or kind of oracles or people like who will read your fortune at the graveyard, people who will claim to be able to commune with spirits if you're coming to pay your respects, and a medium will help you kind of do that communication. So on a given day, there are a variety of people there, but I don't think it's especially crowded, because there are, certain days that are more associated with, communing with your ancestors or remembering kind of times past. Founders Day was now about a month ago. So, that's maybe one of the times that people would come. And it is not hard to find Vilanso's mausoleum. So we can pick up with the four of you right there, if you like.
Is there security around there of any type?
Yeah, I think
clearly not.
So there are people in House Sapphire colors. They're kind of fairly sparse. It's not like 6 right away when you enter. It's there's a board person with a halberd every 100-something feet in any given direction.
Okay.
And as you enter, a couple of people kind of regard you, but no one has intercepted you as of yet. You're able to get to Vilanso's tomb kind of unaccosted. This tomb is, I'd say, probably about 30 feet wide, 20-something feet deep. There are like the basically the oldest version of the emblem or the badge of the Fairest is above the doorway. And I think, Jensia, you can immediately sense and see that there was a magical warding all around the door. The doors are in fact old stone. So this is not Ardcrafted stone, because this is before Ardcraft emerged, and before kind of the Valloward discovered it, quote unquote, discovered it. And the way that it would work is basically as long as there is an unbroken line of this stone that is connected by the magic, there's basically a wholeness to a circle, or like an electrical circuit. And that while whole, it is almost physically impossible to actually move the stone. But further investigation could reveal the status of that ward or any other magical workings that someone had done. Likewise, greater physical investigation may turn up some other clues. I just wanted to set the scene for y'all.
Is the stone in place right now? Has it been returned to its spot of being closed?
It has.
I wonder if they...
So this definitely isn't the work of a large boulder the size of a small boulder.
Happy 3-year anniversary, by the way.
Yeah.
No, happy 3-year anniversary. Yeah.
Is that an official holiday now?
It is officially.
It is actually.
I showed it to my daughter
I'm celebrating it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
This isn't like a landslide or anything physical that we can tell. The doors are back in place.
But
the tomb looks fine. It's just been unsealed.
Yeah.
Is immediately like, this ward was broken. So yes, this definitely somebody was here. And she's going to immediately go into like looking more at getting right up there physically, but like just looking with her magical senses at the old ward.
Sure. And I'm
So
gonna
if you want more information, you'll have to like pry it out of her because now she's focused.
Yeah, I think because you have open mind that says you are always aware when the supernatural draws near or when arcane power builds in your vicinity, you know that not only has this ward been broken, but it does not make sense why it has broken, because there is not a discernible, or at least instantly discernible, physical break in that warding circle. Like the stone floor of the path leading to the doors is intact. The doors are intact. The walls and kind of the kind of archstone piece of the kind of raising to a pointed doorway, everything is there. So it doesn't make sense that the ward has been broken by physical intercession. And you know that that's the easiest way to break one of these wards. So if you would like to kind of get more information about the wards or something like that, we can pick an action, or someone else could do some kind of investigation at y'all's leisure. What sounds good?
Well, I mean, I guess if Jency is doing that, I might look right around the. I mean, I might first glance to see if the board person with a halberd is still bored and like looking in our direction, or if just kind of like staring off into space. And if the person is more staring off into space, then I would probably go over and take a look and try to get a sense of, can I determine if there's any kind of physical disruption to the tomb? You know, not obviously Jency's got the magical part on lockdown, but I would like to know if there's a way to, can I tell if it's been, how it's been shifted into place?
Sure.
And also if I can tell if this was done from the outside.
Right.
Or not.
So what action do you think that is as you're making your investigation?
I am guessing that is probably, I'm feeling like survey.
Yeah, survey and study are the ones that immediately come to mind, but I'm sure that there are other options.
Sway. I would like to sway the stone to my. No, I think survey makes sense.
Okay.
And I have 2 dots in survey actually.
Yeah, so I think the longer you all are here, the more likely it is that there will be some kind of follow-up or repercussions from Sapphire. And so I think the primary risk here is that it takes you longer to figure out what you need. And so that's what I'm going to keep in mind as we make rolls here, because I think it's not the immediate situation that has risk. It's more the social trappings around it. And so, Crevice, you're going to be in a controlled position, but you are going to have limited effect with survey.
Okay.
So you could trade position for effect and do risky standard, which might look like being more obvious as you poke around, or it might look like taking longer. You could push for effect, or maybe some item of gear that you have might give you a greater effect.
Yeah, I don't want to push this early. we just have been trying to get rid of stress or drop it down.
Sure.
I would say,
and of course, someone could.
Can I?
Assist you.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, can I help at all? I have a dot in survey. I could help look at one side while he looks at the other side or something.
Yeah, so you could do a group action where you're both surveying and trading notes, or one of you could assist the other. So if Lutris were assisting Crevice, Lutris would spend 1 stress and Crevice would gain +1 die.
Okay.
Do you want to do that?
Sure. I have 3 stress dots, so I can take some stress.
Okay. All right. Then I would say, because I think the only thing I have is maybe a luck charm would be
I
the
would
only
absolutely
thing?
allow a luck charm to give you increased effect here.
Okay. So then I don't know if so then I guess what I would do is I think I would want to exchange, say, risky as opposed to controlled so that I can increase the effect of this.
Sure.
So if it's risky, so let me just make sure I got that right. So then it would be a standard instead of a limited effect. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it would be a bonus die of
one bonus die from Lutras's assist.
Okay. And because they already counted survey as part of this already.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would mean that you would not have to use your lucky charm or your luck charm.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So then I won't use my lucky charm. Unless you want to not take the stress, Lutris, and I could just use the lucky charm instead, or I could save it. Like I don't know.
Maybe hang on to the lucky charm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I worry.
Yeah, there's always after my lucky charm. Right.
I'm generally inclined to have gear impact effect rather than giving bonus dice.
I see. Okay. Okay. Well, so that's fine. So risky standard, one bonus die from Lutris. I won't use the charm. Okay.
All right. Roll them. Okay.
That's terrible.
One. Well, a 4 is
That's true.
still a hit.
It's okay.
It is a mixed success.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a clock over here, and I'm going to go and edit, and that is, let's see, this is
the board halberd person clock, right?
So this is Sapphire Fallout, basically repercussions with House Sapphire, and I'm going to set it to 2 of 4 because this was a risky consequence, risky situation which creates a moderate consequence. When this 4 clock fills, Sapphire will make a substantive escalation in how they're dealing with you, but it is not full yet. This is something you could resist if you wanted, or someone else could resist. We would probably talk about like concealing or accelerating Crevice's investigation, which would then impact that social layer.
Okay. Well, I don't think we need to. If it's 2 out of 4, I don't think we need to cross that bridge yet.
Yep. But on a standard success, you will get useful information here. And, you can look around and check the windows. There's no traces of broken glass on kind of the ground around. It doesn't look like any of this glass has recently been replaced, so it doesn't seem like they got in that way. You don't feel a draft anywhere for some kind of concealed hole or a secret door. And then you come back to the front, having taken some time, maybe a little frustrated, and you look down. And Crevice, yours is an eye that is very finely attuned. You know how to look for weaknesses. You have the ability that says gap in an armor. And so you look, and there is just something that catches your eye in the right hand front brick right in front of the door. And so if you look closer and closer and get right up next to it, there is an almost imperceptible hairline break in that stone, as if it had either been broken and mended, or as if someone with incredible finesse had done just the absolute minimum. And you can point that out to Gensia and the others.
Is this part of the ward, this stone? Like is it one and or portion of the ward?
So Gensia, you would know once you've been once this has been pointed out.
Yeah.
That could do it. You also think it may be likely that more was done, and then someone used Ardcraft to cover their tracks.
Oh.
In fact, someone could have used Ardcraft to create basically a very, very tiny localized earthquake to crack the stone and break the ward to be able to go in, and then used it again to cover their tracks. But if they did that, they were not quite perfect in that ladder working, because there was still a trace that Curavis spotted. But it really could only be spotted physically rather than spiritually.
So it sounds pretty amazing, actually, that someone did notice that the tomb was unsealed. Because for all intents and purposes, it looks sealed unless you're looking at it magically. Is that what I'm getting here?
That
Like,
is
there's no damage to it. The doors are shut. The only thing you'd notice would be that tiny, tiny crack and the fact that the ward isn't working.
right.
They did cover their tracks.
There
What if we had
is
a large talking dog to help us?
right. There is some uncertainty whether the person that resealed the tomb is the person that opened it. Because if Sapphire knew, could they have done this? Likely.
You mean they could have found it opened, and they could have resealed it with their own abilities? Well, I mean,
Certainly.
I guess I would ask if I can wrest Jensia's attention from the war thing. I guess I would ask, like, is, because we relay these things that you just mentioned to each other, and I would say something like, is it possible that House Sapphire has the ability to close this up again, to make it seem as if it was never opened in the first place?
I presume I know that they're powerful enough to accomplish that. What I am more concerned with is that it took great finesse to break it and then to fix it so smoothly that it's nearly impossible to discover how it was fixed. To me, says that it's the same mind. The mind that knew how it was broken then knew how to fix it, rather than someone coming along behind later. And this is just speculation, but I would, if I came across a ward broken in this manner, and I don't know that I would know how to fix it so invisibly. So
And
that's what I think. I think it was the same person.
How did they do it without anyone noticing?
Is that kind of art craft something that could be done without a lot of sort of fanfare?
I think that you'd believe that it could be, but it would take some fairly impressive skill or a very specialized ritual or something like that. So they would either need to be very powerful, like a very skilled art crafter in general, or have a very like specific specialization to be able to do something like, as you described, to both do the break and the mend in this fashion.
But I assume we would know that this is not something that we would expect most, say organized crime would have a difficulty with this. Like, this is something that you would need to have. This is something which likely only a house representative or someone with like resources of some kind would be the one able to do this, right? In other words, this is not kind of a common criminal sort of break option. They don't have this available to them.
What I would say is there are not so many people that could do this that you can't track them down.
Lovely. Okay. Well, now we have to try to get back in. now we have to do that. I'm like, all right then, Jensia, good luck then.
Let's do it. I'm going in.
And
So,
should one of us go over and engage the board guard? Like, I could be like, Zelfa, do you think, or actually I could do it, I suppose. I could just, like, one of us, like, sort of like, hey, that's quite a halberd you got there, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Like,
I
was
yeah.
actually planning to engage.
That's what I was going to ask. I figured you
Yeah.
might want to, but I didn't know.
That'll let Zelfa get an action in the scene. So
Let's do it.
We can, like, so basically, Jensi, you can be working, but our camera will follow Zelfa. So Brandon, how are you going to do this?
So it's only the one guard here.
There is kind of one guard currently in eye shot. You know there are other guards around.
What do I glean about this guard?
I only heard, what do I glean about this guard? So Brandon will hopefully return in a moment.
There's a moment where the guard is just sort of staring, and he's like, "What?" The self is just staring into their soul. What do I glean about this guard? Tell me what.
It's supposed to be like a quick once over, but it's lasting like a minute.
Right, exactly. Yep. Until finally, just out of awkwardness, the guard just keels over. And just like,
oh my god. Can anyone hear me now?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
It was really funny. You're like, what do I glean from this guard? And then you were just sort of frozen in this, like, staring into their soul moment type of thing.
So we were wondering if it's possible in this world if people can actually die spontaneously of awkwardness.
Oh my god. How Sapphire has maintained control of my internet connection, I'm sorry. But I want to know, like, what do I get about this guard's general demeanor?
Yeah, I think this guard is bored but not inattentive. So they have absolutely noticed you, but they weren't gawking, they weren't glaring. They just stood in such a fashion that you were in their peripheral vision. They look, I would say, early middle age, perhaps, fairly boxy build, dark, slightly curly hair, light brown skin. They fit in quite well amongst the overall populace of Valloward.
So I walk up to them and I say, "Good day, soldier. I imagine you must have seen some of the sights around this area when you started your patrol here?"
That's right. May I assist you with anything?
I'd love it very much.
Confess! Confess! No, just start screaming at him.
I'd like to know if you noticed anything out of the ordinary, other than that.
Other than that.
I think the conspiracy may be getting its revenge on Brandon for us having successfully completed Fractal Spire.
I assume that House Sapphire handles communications, right, and infrastructure for the island, I'm guessing.
Let me double check my sphere of influence. Let's see. House Sapphire. Yes, they control Comcast.
Okay, that makes sense. House Broadband is going to make a big change in all that. You just
oh my god.
I'm very sorry, Brandon. But if you could repeat that.
Yeah, so essentially I'm asking if they saw any evidence that someone else might have been here and whether that evidence implies who it might have been.
Right. So you see enough playing across this guard's eyes that you get the sense that they have in fact seen something, but their lips go thin and they say, "I'm sorry. Are you wearing any symbols or colors of Vorster?"
I'm not wearing my clothes are not in Vorster colors, but I am wearing a House Vorster brooch.
Okay. I'm sorry. I report to Sapphire, and any inquiries would need to be directed to the Seneschal there. I know my duties, and I'm doing them.
Were you doing them that night?
Noted. But to be sure, your duties ensure the perpetual protection of this tomb, which has since been infiltrated. It only stands to reason that discovering who is responsible and seeing that they are brought to justice is more vital than being secretive about one piece of information.
All right.
We're not doing it for anyone else's sake, so our help is for you.
So do you want to make a roll here?
Definitely Sway.
Okay. So
I mean, I'm convinced. I totally agree.
Yeah, this guard is wary about giving out information, but I think not beyond convincing. So this will also be a risky standard roll with sway.
Okay, that works for me. I am going to push myself for an extra 9.
Okay, so that'll put you at 3. Is that right? Okay. All right. Let's see those dice.
Whenever you're ready, roll 20. Oh my god.
Hey,
Aha.
see?
3, 6, 3.
Pow.
And the guard kind of looks down, not so much down that they can't still see kind of at least the foot line of a bunch of the garden, kind of within the graveyard. So they're still doing their job. And this guard says, "It was a month ago. I wasn't supposed to be working night. There was some sound or something by the west fence, and I went to investigate. And when I came back, it was foggy. But the weather wasn't right for fog like that. It was fog like there is on the Green Sea, in the early spring. Up here, I have never seen that before. And when I came back, just at the edge of the fog, I could have sworn that I saw figures moving and distant footsteps. And I, of course, reported it. And I was told thank you. And I never heard anything more of it. And when I came into work the following night, everything was in place. I asked if they'd done anything, and I was told that it was being handled. I can only hope that Sapphire has done something about it, but I am but a pawn in the great game. I don't presume to be a player."
Pawns are important to the game. Without them, one cannot win. Do you remember any details about who or what you saw? This group of men?
They were not dressed as finely as you. They were dressed more commonly. And one of them it almost looked like a military jacket.
Ooh. And just Zelfa's here, only hearing this, right? Because we're overdoing our thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm excited to hear the rumors.
A military jacket. No details further? Nothing particularly outstanding about that jacket?
It, like I said, it was very foggy, and it was, I don't know, 2 bells past midnight. I have very good eyes, but even I have a limit.
It sounds like your eyes have surpassed their own limits by your own description. And I take him by the forearm and I say, if no one else tells you this, let me say it. you have not done the work of a pawn. You, by your own admission, seem to care more about the security of Veterans Rest than it seems your own superiors. That is laudable. Let no one take that grace from you. You've done good work this day, and then, and I hope that you continue.
And they kind of like straighten up and like puff out their chest a bit at that kind of commendation and kind of praise that says, well, it's not for me to decide what to do about any of this. Like I said, I've done my job. But if Sapphire hasn't done something about it and Forster does, I will be grateful and sleep more easily. Now I should turn around and pretend that I never saw you. Good luck.
That's what I'm talking about. There you go.
Good luck to you as well, stranger. And I walk over to the rest of the group.
The guard says, like, fairly lowly under their breath, "It's Nara."
Take care, Nara.
And then they kind of turn 90 degrees and kind of very, very, like, their body language is loud. If you've ever seen that, when someone is like, they're taking up a bit more space and they're really deliberate in how they act.
So we can all at least see that. So when Zelfa comes back over, I'm like, well done. I see that you've been convincing as usual.
Turns out the best form of conversation is to let someone know that they're valued by people other than their own superiors, as usual. Weird things have been afoot in this area.
I can tell, and I guess Zelfa did Zelfa hear when like Gensia was doing her thing, and I was checking out the bricks and all that. Like, was Zelfa there for that, or was Zelfa already walking to the guard?
The way that I played it in my brain was Zelfa was watching Gensia observe the rune and waited for Gensia to share a note about what happened. And then when it didn't happen, just walks away.
Got something to do with. So, all right. So then when you fill us in, we can fill you in on what we found out about this brick and everything else. And then we just have to figure out how to get in, because we need to at least find out what they took, if anything.
Yeah. It sounded like a concerted plan, which gives me the impression that someone knew what would be inside here, but they didn't wear any house colors, only that jacket, and there are no details about the jacket that I can offer.
Military.
This could all be a scheme, even. All we know is that someone got in. I'm sure we'll get a better answer when we see what's inside.
Okay. So Zelfa was gone long enough that we can jump back to Gensia's attempts and then reveal in this moment whether she has already rebroken the ward. So Rhiannon, how are you going to approach this?
Well, I mean, what she's going to first off do is, because the ward being broken, she's just going to like try to push the stone, see what happens.
So the ward has been reactivated, but is vulnerable because there is still that breakage. It's just because you know exactly where to push now, and that makes it vulnerable to you in a way that you didn't realize earlier.
Gotcha. Well, in that case, I think what she would do is she has a bag of sort of like stuff that she's brought with her. Mm-hmm. So she's going to pull out kind of like a stylus, and then like keep looking in her bag because she doesn't have a hammer or anything like that. But she's finally going to come out with like, I don't know, a little like notebook or something. Anyway, just something flat so that she can take the stylus and put it where the crack is on the brick and then like whack it while she's doing something magically. But she's using that to focus her magic.
Great. So would this be channel?
Yeah, channel.
Great. I think this is going to be I think normally it would be risky limited to break this ward because it is a kind of more like fairly powerful, but you know exactly where to go. And I think that will get you to risky standard. Here, if it's okay, Greg, I think it makes sense to grant Gensia that bonus that you get from Gap in the Armor, which is a +1d and increased effect.
But
I
I
also
can, oh right, because I can because I can give that. I forgot I can give that bonus to someone else. Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I
Absolutely.
also have the open mind bonus dice, so should I take that instead, or
You can have each bonus dice, so you could be at +2 dice, and then you would be at risky standard.
Hey Mike, far be it from me to undercut a potential benefit to us, but like I'm not. Is that how you read Gap in the Armor? Because I'm looking at this as like pushing yourself to find a weakness in an argument, gesture, or evasion, and seek an avenge. That feels very like in convo with someone else. No, not necessarily what this is. I mean, like, again, like, this is the part where everyone's like, same team, but like, I don't want to be that guy, but I'm just, I don't know. It doesn't look like that. That's not how I imagine Gap in the Armor. Not that I'm against it. I'm just,
I am fine giving this to you as a non-precedent setting kind of instance.
Okay.
I
mean, it's reasonable that I could survey stuff and figure out stuff that has a physical component. I just didn't know if this was it.
I think
that's cool.
I was interpreting Gap in the Armor as more like Karnak's superpower.
Okay.
Where in more recent comics, it is interpreted way more broadly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Coming from the I know how to break the stone to I can see the hole in your argument, and Gap in the Armor is kind of originating from the other way, pointing toward the rock thing.
And I
but
do
you
like
are
the idea
you
that
are correct in your reading that I think that is the intended scope.
Okay, because I do like the idea that as a Bravo, I like battles of wit and battles of physical prowess. So this kind of ties over. Okay, I just was sorry all. It's my GM brain being like, wait, what? Like,
no, it's good to talk our way through the mechanics here.
Wow.
So Gensia has rolled.
Obliterates the tomb and just shears it from the earth, just like, sorry.
3, 4, 4, 6.
Good God.
6. So when you get 2 6s, you get a critical.
Mega kill.
And so
Look
that
at
means
that roll.
that you will have great effect. And so what you are able to do, Gensia, is that it's not so much that you've broken the ward, is that you have
annihilated. Sorry. We are the annihilators, I'm just saying.
If you realize that if you want, you can press on it in such a fashion that you can basically hold it open for a time and then let it kind of become whole again. And your impact on this ward will be nearly imperceptible. And so what that means is basically Gensia can open the ward, you can push the doors in, go in, and Gensia will be able to hold it open at least for a couple minutes, you believe. I will let you know if it seems like the group has been in there long enough that it's going to become a challenge for you to hold it open. But that gives the rest of you the opportunity to slip inside.
Okay, so let's make it quick before he decides to turn back dramatically as he left.
Yep. So inside there are some personal effects on different kind of altars or stands. There is a fine painted portrait of a very noble looking man. I think he's probably 50-ish at that time. Some white and silver in the kind of tightly curled hair. A nice military jacket of that era, and then at the center of this mausoleum is a fairly a not especially ornate, but a nice kind of stone kind of sort of sarcophagus. There is stone up and there is a cover. And on the cover is again that oldest emblem of the fairest.
One chamber only then down here in this mausoleum, just the single chamber?
Yeah, single chamber.
Okay.
The other things look undisturbed, except there is an empty sword hanger right there, Crevice, you notice.
Empty sword hanger, you said?
Yep. A saber or rapier would go right there, just so. There is not one.
I was just going to say that if I go over, first of all, are there any other sword hangers or just the one?
It's just the one.
Okay. If I go over there, am I able to see, has there dust that's been disturbed? Something which suggests that something was removed from that spot? Like perhaps scratch marks where the hilt might have rested on top of this hanger that is now no longer there? Or...
You would guess that it's very likely that this was taken at the same time as the tomb was broken into.
Interesting. And the sarcophagus thing, from outside inspection without looking at it closely, but just to doesn't look as if it's open, right? The actual tomb itself, the box itself is not open.
Right. It is either undisturbed or has been replaced pretty effectively, quite precisely.
So I look at it and I look at the empty hanger and I say, well, there's one thing that was taken when they came. As it echoes inside, there's one thing.
I immediately look at the jacket.
So that jacket is in the style of the war that was fought that got the Vorsters their title. So timing wise, it is likely that Vilanso kept wearing that jacket as a member of the fairest kind of through those founding decades, and was and this portrait was hung here because it represents him likely at kind of like the height of his political or social cachet. And you note that it does have metallic buttons that might catch the light at night, as Nara described.
There's another thing. I hadn't expected it to be an old Valloward jacket, but it stands to reason then that maybe someone had a specific goal coming in here, that they're attempting to honor Vilanso in some way. That this isn't an act of desecration, but something more complicated than that.
Yeah, and Curvis, as you're kind of looking at the sarcophagus, and I think Lutris, you could see this as well. This here is not sealed. It is just a stone on top of another stone.
Is there anything else magical within the inside of the tomb?
I think, Gensia, you'd be able to tell with the doors open that nothing else looks magical.
Okay.
So I think Gensia would be able to tell more readily than Lutris, if that's okay, Premee, for me to...
Oh, yeah, no, totally. I was just being nosy.
Yeah, sure.
If they weren't planning to desecrate, they didn't do a good job with all of it. And I again look at the empty sword hanger and why take this?
So is
That's a
anybody
good question.
gonna...
Why take an old man's prized weapon? He cared about it enough to ensure that it was in the tomb. Is anyone going to lift the top of the sarcophagus and look?
I'm very curious.
I volunteer. So maybe I hand Karevis the bouquet of flowers that I was carrying around to maintain appearances.
Right.
Oh, nice.
And what do I roll? Or wait, do I have to roll for this, or can I just pry off the cover?
I think you don't have to roll.
Okay.
I don't think you have to roll an action. What I would ask is that you roll me one die as a fortune roll.
Okay. So can I just hit the button that says roll fortune?
Yes.
That's so handy. Sorry, it's been a while since I played.
if this roll comes up as a 1 to 3, it will be noisy, and you can do something about that.
Okay.
So there's a 50-50 chance you might have to roll.
Okay. So can I just hit the roll fortune button?
Yep. So roll
Then I
fortune,
will just do
1
that.
die.
1, submit.
Okay, on a 4. So you do it nice and smooth. Have you opened like a sarcophagus or a grave before in your previous lives?
Never.
Graves, yes. Sarcophagus, no. There was never time to bury anybody properly. Sometimes we were burying parts
Okay.
of people. I've dealt with a lot of dead bodies, if that's what you're asking.
Well, there isn't one here.
Hey, look at that.
Well.
I think the important thing is to not panic.
But it does look like
Lutris leaps into the empty sarcophagus. Quick!
It definitely looks like a body was there for quite some time. So this does not appear to have been a like empty grave situation where this whole thing is a distraction.
This isn't looking like a necromancy situation, is it?
This seems less like
Maybe.
ordinary theft.
I don't like necromancy. I've had bad experiences. God, give me my flowers back.
Can Gentian do another magical thing while she's holding the ward open?
I think doing that would be difficult, and so you'd likely have to roll. What would you like to do?
Because I had an idea, and you can tell me if it's too much. As far as sort of trying to do a spell to see traces of magic that isn't here now, but magic that touch things that in the past. So like if some of that fog got in,
right,
or if the sword was magic and like left magic against the wall, or magic was used on the body.
Sure. So how does Gensia approach this type of like, it's almost like psychometry, right?
So what I was thinking is she would actually gesture Zelfa over and pull out something from her bag, which is a little pouch of sort of, I don't know, like, looks like some kind of powder, maybe powdered herbs. And it's something that Zelfa might recognize as having talked about before as a particular ingredient that you can use with magic.
Or are these are these flowers like local to this island?
Sure, yeah.
So they would be perhaps more likely that Zelfa is familiar with them.
So what she wants to do is she's going to sort of pour some onto her palm and then blow it at whatever she wants to sort of see if there's traces of magic there. So basically like fingerprint powder.
Sure. Yeah.
I definitely want to assist in this role.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So if Zelfa wants to like hold the ingredients or whatever, like Gentia would be happy to have her help.
Yeah. So is this a normal assist or a foresight assist for Gensia?
I don't know what that means.
Oh, I'm asking I'm asking Brandon, who I think just froze again. So Zelfa has a ability called foresight that says twice per errand you may assist a teammate without paying stress.
Well, Zelfa is foreseeing right now, so it's
so Brandon, is that foresight? Really, we got 3 seconds with them before they disappeared again. Rhiannon, why don't you go ahead and make your roll, because the provenance of the assist is not something that would delay us from rolling.
Sure. So
this
channel
is, yeah, I think doing this, you would, I think this is risky limited because you are holding this other magical effect. Otherwise, it might be like controlled standard.
Okay.
And the assist is happening, is confirmed.
Yep. So confirmed assist. You have at least +1 die. You could push yourself or ask for a lady's favor.
I think I'll just go with the assist.
Yep, no problem. Okay, so that's 1, 1, 4, and 5. On a 5, you kind of get the information. I think with limited effect, you can get kind of a narrow answer. So where are you looking for past magic? Like where specifically? Could be the door, could be the sarcophagus, it could be some other place in the tomb or something like that.
So as many as she can, she's going to prioritize the sarcophagus and then do the empty sword hanger next.
Okay. I think on limited effect, you'll just get the 1.
Okay, sarcophagus first.
And I'm curious, what does it feel like, smell, taste, or anything when you kind of realize the echo of tremendously powerful necromancy?
Oh, wow.
Oh boy.
I think well, I think she'll probably show some surprise because she was expecting a visual effect that it would kind of like glow a little bit. And there's definitely a glow there, but it's maybe kind of like a blacklight kind of color.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's cool.
That because it's the powder, there's a little bit of scent of that. Not anything particular, but just like this is dried flowers. And that turns into sort of like really rank decay kind of scent. Like you shouldn't get that from these because they're dried. They can't have been rotting.
Yeah, and I think because Gensia is so attuned to magical flows and effects, there's likely like a raising of the hairs on the back of your neck, like the expression like somebody walked over your grave, like just touching even the echo of magic this powerful is likely to be very affective.
Okay, well, she'll probably squeak and then she'll be on like the nearest wall, like back from the
and so the risky consequence is that you're going to lose your hold, and your companions would in fact be stuck inside. But this is something you could resist.
Yes, I'm doing
sealed
that.
in the tomb.
Right. Let's double check your sheet. I believe you might be able to use your special armor here.
Okay.
If you want to read that text for us.
Resist complication related to magic cast against you or your coterie when you're present. So yes, that is what I'm going to do.
Yep. So if you scroll down and fill in the box marked special, which should be empty because you did downtime and everything resets. But if you now mark it, what does it look like when even recoiling, you're able to hold on to that original magical working?
Oh boy. So she had the thing of ingredients in her hands, or she had some dust left, and she like basically drops everything so that she can reach out one hand towards the door. And she's not going to say anything, but you guys could probably guess that there's something with the door going on because like she's sort of shaking with physical effort that she's putting into what she's doing at the door.
Right. Yeah. And I think what you've done will probably buy them another few moments, but you're in a rough spot right now. But the other, as Rhiannon described, you all would be able to see that if you had an eye on the door.
Delpha immediately goes, necromancy is bad. Let's leave, please.
And so I kind of am like, this is the bed sign. Is there, you said there's no body in the sarcophagus. Is there anything in the sarcophagus at all?
There are probably scraps of old clothing and what looks like maybe the remains of like probably the metal grommets that might have been an old flag where the cloth has disintegrated, but the metal remains.
Interesting. Okay. So that just gives us the information that he's gone, but nothing is obviously in the sarcophagus that may not have been there before. Something new bits of like what look like new cloak that might have been ripped off in or anything like that? Was there?
With an
No.
S on it.
Right.
Yeah,
Everything that's in there looks like
Signed bad guy. Yeah.
it's been in there for a very long time.
Okay. All right. Then we need to get out of here. This got a lot
I'm
more
grabbing
complicated.
the scraps in there anyway and putting them in my pockets because I'm like that.
Okay.
I have a lot of pockets.
I take off the jacket that I'm wearing to wrap it around the military jacket that we found. Because I'm not going to touch it in the event that this is Velanzo's. And I rush out the door.
I'm sorry. The Velanzo is wearing a jacket in the painting. There is not a jacket in the tomb.
Ah, right. Cool.
I apologize.
Oh, there's nothing from. Yeah, I just run out of the tomb. I leave. I flee.
Okay. So the three of them scurry out, Gensia, as you're holding this open. But I think as part of that consequence, you got a critical. Now that you don't have anything else to do, you can release it, and it should reset. Still looking pretty covered up. I think on a risky consequence, it'd be too much for me to both have it stop early and undo kind of your stealthiness. So you keep the stealthiness. And the four of you are left outside of the tomb.
I immediately go up towards Nara.
I think they're a little surprised to see you again. My good day. What's going on?
And again, stares into the soul. How could you?
Again.
Zelfa freezes as Sapphire, as House Sapphire magicians.
35 magicians materialize out of thin. Well, crap, draw my sword. Let's go. Let's roll. Yeah, I mean.
Oh, the best thing about this really is actually the timing. Just like perfect timing every time.
That's yeah, it really totally is. Once
I feel like
once she talks to Nara, we got to get out of here and back to the house. We got to talk this through. This has got a lot more complicated, a lot faster.
I feel like some gremlin is playing.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes. You froze, but you were just like you. Every time though, Premee was saying the timing is perfect
the internet
every time.
Hates me. I will resolve this before the night is through. But and I say, the jacket that you found was an old Valloward jacket, one Velanzo once wore, and there is no blade in this mausoleum. Both of those things are things that House Sapphire should know.
And so for clarification for Brandon, when Nara said that they saw a jacket, it was on one of the figures. And so that's the jacket situation. And so in response, they say, very well, I will probably have to tell them that I saw you. So good luck.
That's fair. I can deal with that. And I will let you know this one part that you can save for when they speak to us. You don't need to share this with them. Velanzo's not there either. And I just walk off with the rest of the group.
I think his jaw drops when you say that, and so we leave that scene with kind of the agape mouth of this House Sapphire guard, I think we should take our break now, which will give Brandon the chance to possibly reset internet stuff. So I think, Greg, if it's all right, we'll go to break here in a moment. As a reminder, a break for us is a break for you. So we invite you to get a beverage, use the restroom, stretch, walk around, grab a snack, whatever it is that will help you have a good rest of your day while you continue to join us for our session of Court of Blades Valloward, which we will continue when we return from break.
We will see you folks in just a minute. Hang tight. right. So, welcome back, everyone. The plot is thickened a little bit, eh? Just a touch, maybe just a little bit. I am excited to see what happens next. Because all of a sudden the dead walk the earth, so I'm sure that'll all be fine. Welcome back, and again, as a reminder, as we head back over to the crew, that you're watching Speculate, and if you have enjoyed what you've seen so far, please note there are other sessions of this available for you, and please also note that you can support Speculate to do more of this sort of thing, to have companies that are able to sponsor us, as the Drakes have so kindly done, but also to have other ones that may want to associate themselves with us and sponsor us, like Evil Hat and things like that. And all of that can be found here with !Speculate, and you can support the Patreon that way, and you can also get some cool stuff for yourself over on the Speculate Patreon, including behind the scenes looks and things like that. So please check that out. And otherwise, now that we have clearly stumbled into something that we did not intend to, I'm sure we're all set, gang. This is going to be great. And I will hand things back over to Mike to tell us what horrific situation we have to deal with now that we've discovered this.
All right. When we last left the messengers of Vorster, they had just extricated themselves from an ancient tomb dating back to the days of the founding of Valor's Reward, now known as Valloward, where they discovered that a kind of an old veteran, Julian Villanzo, who had been a mercenary, seems to have been reanimated through necromancy and taken away from the graveyard by some group of individuals who also potentially were able to like summon some fog. I'm sure it's fine. That doesn't sound scary at all. Necromancy isn't an incredibly powerful and widely feared discipline of magic, largely associated with the old country. So where are y'all headed after the graveyard? Back to House Vorster or somewhere else first?
To a boat to get off the island. No.
To a bar. I would like a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
And next time we'll have a whole new crew.
Exactly. No. Yeah, I mean, we need to head back to Safe Haven back at the house, right? I mean, and then discuss things and then head out to wherever we're going to go next. But I would think we need to get off the street, so to speak, and into a place where we can speak in relative privacy.
I would think as well that someone on authority needs to know, and it's either we do the right thing and let someone in House Sapphire know, or we go right back to House Forster and let as many people as possible know that perhaps necromancy has just occurred.
My vote's the latter. I mean,
Same.
Yeah, because I don't want the more of this we find out, the less I trust House Sapphire, frankly, and I don't.
Yeah.
Something is very wrong. Something is very wrong here. We need to get to our people. So I would say.
Yeah. I also vote the second, but also maybe not right away because, okay, admittedly the evidence looks pretty solid, but when you sit right down with it, it's actually sort of circumstantial. And we've only got kind of the one witness for something that sort of happened. We know for sure there's an empty tomb. That's basically all we've got.
An empty
Maybe
tomb
we should look
used
into this.
necromantic
With necromantic magic.
Yeah.
I mean, but it
couldn't hurt to look into it a little more.
I imagine we're having this discussion while we're moving like quickly along the streets, like whispering to each other almost, just sort of like keeping it,
keeping it on the down low.
Yeah.
But somebody mentioned there is only kind of probably like a very short list of people that could potentially do this. Are those records available back at the house, or does Vencia know how to excuse me?
They've caught up to us already.
So I think Vorster has some substantial records, but if I'm remembering correctly, magic is not one of Vorster's strengths. I think if you had either magic or information, you might be able to get down to it just at home, but your strengths are force and supply. So I think, Jensia, you could make some headway, but you may end up having to go to either Academy Valloward or some other, maybe the Court of Deeds might have kind of old records as well. But you could definitely do some research at the house.
Well, and she's looking rough, so unless
Yeah.
you're like pushing her, like go research, she's like, I want to go home.
Here's my case, at least. Jensia's done a lot of very good work. I am biased, of course, but I believe that Jensia is perhaps the best knack in any house. And all of us saw what we saw in that mausoleum. I'm sure if we go to any leader of any house and let them know that we did in fact see it, they would trust that fact. Necromancy has occurred. What that means about Velanso's body or the people who went to seek it has yet to be determined. But what has already been confirmed is a body has been raised from that tomb. That's cause for concern already. And I don't think the four of us want to fight one undead old Valloward by ourselves.
Who says we'd be fighting him? We just want to see what happened and who's responsible for it. In fact, if this is a case that's not even of grave desecration, is necromancy illegal here? Or is it just like very frowned upon socially?
I think more the latter.
It's just not done.
Any given house.
It's just not tasteful.
Yeah, it's just really
so
gauche.
In Court of Blades, the book, there are two special playbooks. One of them is a fey touched trickster. The other is a revenant. And so I think in our world of Valloward, it is not unknown for a house powerful in magic to sometimes resurrect an old member of the house to call upon their knowledge or their skill, but it is a very powerful, very dangerous thing to do. And I think in Valloward, there is generally a understanding among the great houses that it is something to be avoided. And so if one of the houses were found out to have done this, it would hurt them in the great game to have done it.
Also,
okay.
if you'd indulge me a kind of world building, I also think one of the concerns in Vala's Isle in general is that this territory was gifted specifically to veterans as a place where they would find peace after war. So Veterans Rest is like legitimately a kind of spiritual promise, and as a result, any magic that brings one back to life is considered gauche, in part because you are denying someone peace after decades of conflict, but a veteran more so because this was given to them for that purpose.
Right. CF Buffy season 6.
So that raises the question though. So you said houses may resurrect members of their own clan. Are we suggesting that House Ferris may be responsible for this and got the okay somehow, or purchased the okay somehow, or bribed the okay somehow from House Sapphire? Because if they're just more or less doing an extreme version of taking an old book off a shelf, surely that's their business. It's their person. They haven't really done anything wrong in that case.
Oh, look, sometimes you just pull the old quilt out of the attic, and that's, in this case, the quilt is a dead body, but it's
do these revenants have any other, let's say, like, negative or dangerous qualities aside from being a source of wisdom and knowledge? They don't eat brains, do they?
No, I think the thing about, I'm trying to think if we should have a term separate from revenant. I think revenant is like IP neutral enough that it's fine. In Court of Blades, that playbook is called The Curse. So I would say, like, we'll stay away from that language to to leave that to Ilrien as a setting. So I think Revenant is fine for now. The thing is, Gensia, I think what House Forster would have is like genealogical information. And you do not believe that Vilanso has any blood or kinship tie to House Sapphire. So this would not be them taking one of their own books off the shelf. It would be rather more like breaking into Ferrest's library and taking one of their old books.
But
Oh, no, that's what I meant to suggest, was that Ferrest had taken a book off their shelf and gotten permission from Sapphire somehow.
That is possible.
Or bribed them, because bribes are always a thing.
Sure.
A bribe would work on me. I don't know.
That remains to be seen.
So we've got to notify our higher ups in House Forster, but we also have to figure out, I mean, because the other thing is, like, has this been done on Valloward? I know it was done in the old country. Has this been done in Valloward?
I think it was probably done at least once that you as retainers would know about.
Okay.
Around when the Great Earthquake happened, and there was a huge amount of instability. And I would say probably House Corinne brought back one of their members from like the founding era, who was around for another like 20 something years. And during that time, Corinne's status rose because they had this powerful, very skilled figure. But that as things settled in and as Ardcraft became more well-known, that probably allowed the other houses, and especially like the rising House Greymist, which built that huge manor that is their home out of Ardcraft, that gave other houses the social pressure to get Corinne to lay that member to rest again, and that the agreement among the great houses likely emerged after that. That is probably what the histories would tell you.
How long do we have a sense of how long ago that is then?
So that would be, so this city was founded 300 years ago, we know, from the first episode. And I believe we had the earthquake be like about 1/3 of the way through that history. So let's say that was 200 years ago.
So the last time this was done was 200 years ago.
Yeah.
To the best of our knowledge.
It is incredibly unlikely that anyone is alive today who remembers anyone that remembers when this happened.
Right. In other words,
like, you know, it would take 100-year-old who had a grandparent who was, you know, like 108, or, you know, that it's defies probability that there is living memory, like direct passed on memory of this. It would at least be 2 generations of removal at the minimum.
So I kind of, as we're, you know, heading along the streets talking, as we're making our way back, I kind of hold up a hand and I stop and I turn and I say, with my voice lowered, the problem is that if what we think happened has happened, whether it was House Ferrest or whether it was somebody else, this unbalances everything. Do you understand? No matter what it is that happens, whatever house was involved, or if someone is trying to pin it on another house, when this comes out, this imbalances things fundamentally. Some house wanted to do this, or someone wants to make it seem like a house wanted to do this. And that means we need to be very careful about whom we trust. Except for our own house, outside of it. And if they were willing to raise someone from the dead to help them, there's no reason they won't put others into the state of being dead to avoid that being found out.
This complicates a great deal of things.
Indeed.
If they're willing to break a taboo that's older than our bodies, that's already a problem.
And if we don't find out...
But they brought back...
Sorry, go ahead.
They brought back one of the greatest mercenaries of the old country, which is also problematic.
Yeah, this would be like bringing back Lafayette from the Revolutionary War.
And just be like, we'd better find out who it is quickly, too, if we want to know who's engaging in this.
Well, why him? Why now? There's got to be a reason that he was brought back at this exact moment. What's the purpose? But secondly, I'm concerned about the magic being used here. I don't know enough about this. This means that somebody is out there training practitioners to be able to do this for the past 200 years in secret, or that somebody has written down the method, and that means anyone powerful enough could use it. It's all been in secret. Nobody knew about this.
I kind of glance over at Gensia, who I know has been freaking out, consistently to see whether like, and I sort of try to get a sense, and I'm again, my voice lowered. I'm just like, you know what you felt in the mausoleum, yes?
Mm.
Is it? It would take something incredibly powerful. Could you track it somehow, trace it if you had to?
Well, it very, very powerful. It would be dangerous. I think it would take some time for me to devise the method to track it, and to what Lutris was saying. If it was written down, it's not so simple as following a recipe to bake a cake, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there that, if it's written down, would have the power and personality to practice it until they got it right. So it
No,
doesn't.
I don't like that either. I don't like any of this.
Let's get back home. We need to get off the street.
I like the kind of problems you can solve with a knife.
All right, and that's a great place to wipe, because it's a good scene outro line.
Yeah.
So are you back on the terrace or somewhere else in the house? You could be in the library or something like that.
Library sounds right. Something where it's
Yeah.
closed, as long as we don't have a lot of people around us.
Okay. Have you already passed on a message to Suan or Morgaine or whoever's home?
I would think so.
Okay.
There
what
was.
does that message include?
Dear Morgaine, something hit the fan. Please come see. I mean, we would probably
Just
talk
necromancy, all caps.
Actually, I think what I might do is I might pull Zelfa aside, and I might say, Zelfa, I have a question. Morgaine, we need to tell them. Well, okay, how do I put this? Let me explain what I'm thinking out of character for a second. Premee, as is her wont, was coming up with super smart and insightful ideas about what might be going on in the Zoom chat. Brought up something I was also wondering about, which had to do with how we found out about this in the first place. And that is something, but the reason I'm saying this out of character is that it will be like, here's my awesome idea that I just ripped off from Premee, and I'm pretending this is my idea. But
That's not an awesome idea. This is paranoia.
Yeah. It was something I thought about too. So what I would ask Zelfa is whether Zelfa can figure out a way to tell Morgaine what has happened, but also kind of try to get a sense of how did Morgaine find out about this, because this isn't in the local news. Nobody apparently knows that this happened. Even Nara the guard didn't want to tell us. And I do trust House Vorster overall, and probably trust Morgaine, but I would at least like to notify somebody. So I would actually want to notify someone else besides Morgaine in House Vorster, but then also, while under the guise of notifying Morgaine, like, oh yeah, I wanted to let you know this, find out, how did you find out about this? And I feel like Zelfa's maybe best suited to figure out all of what I just said in a way that
Zelfa actually has people skills, unlike some of the rest of us. But yeah, and also maybe come back to us and report what Morgaine's reaction was to learning this.
Yeah, because I also can,
and also to the question of how exactly were we notified about this invisible break-in that nobody knew about, even the guard.
I'm also very curious. That guard knew that something had happened, had reported it a month or more ago, and it only became vital now.
Yeah.
which is
And then
also very
we were
worrying.
put onto this.
Right.
Us specifically.
Do remember that you got your dossier at the beginning of the season, and it included this. You had since then spent some time dealing with the eels and then some time during downtime. This game is more diffuse and like uncondensed timing wise compared to something even like a Blades in the Dark. So it has been closer to a month than to 2 weeks since you got this dossier.
Granted, it still is one of those, like, it's probably fine, but it's one of
Probably.
those things where it would be useful to kind of know. And then we would notify somebody else regardless to let them know, hey, we got problems because of what we said.
Hey, the taboo's been broken. No big deal.
Right. And so is that Zelfa going to Morgaine?
I actually wanted to suggest 2 very small scenes rather than 1 very large scene. I want to talk to Caitlin first.
Okay. Yeah. So I think Caitlin it's spring, and I think it's probably early afternoon by the time you get back, if you were kind of meeting in the morning at the terrace. And so Caitlin is kind of upstairs on kind of so House Forster has that middle courtyard with the pond that we established. And I think there is a second level kind of sort of porch thing. And so Caitlin is seated up on that second level, overlooking the garden and the pond and kind of the natural world. And she has a big old hardcover book kind of plopped on the rail, kind of at the edge of that thing, and is reading in like a comfortable wide stance. So she's enjoying sort of being outside while still reading this big gigantic book. And she's dressed very practically, not at all fancy.
I'm gonna say that I bought like a very small box of pastries on my way back here, and I just kind of drop it onto the book in front of her.
This book is older than the city. What are you doing?
Offering you something to eat, of course.
And so what type of pastry are these? Are they like something Valloward? Are they something D'Alta? Are they something else?
I want to say that there is a hybrid pastry shop somewhere in Valloward that is like, let's take old school D'Alta pastries and just add lots of powdered sugar to them.
Okay.
Because no one's gonna eat pure D'Alta sweets, but let's just make it Valloward instead.
And so it's got like an industrial like decor style and like a one-word title. No, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Williamsburg.
Oh God.
Okay, yeah, got it.
I live here anymore.
I hate it. But
I hate it too.
because
God.
because it's very good. And so she kind of sets the box aside, opens it up, and she has a sweet tooth, which perhaps is why you chose what you chose. And so she starts snacking on one of them, and then like pulls and folds the cover over to reveal the title, which is, this would be a survey of sorceress inquiry of Javelin, and then it gives like a date range that includes the era of the Valloward coming to this island. It says, it's actually really interesting. Have you read this one?
I have, not since I started studying, of course, but it's quite a tome. As you can see, it's bigger than most children.
When I was little, I would come in, go into the library, and one time I pulled a book out that was as big as me, and I fell and it dropped on me, and I had to go to the healer and swear them to secrecy that they would never tell anybody. But of course, Morgaine already knew.
Yes, she did. She told me in secret that a house hand had noted it took upwards of 30 minutes just for you to get up front under the book. You could have hurt yourself. You could have just asked someone to get it for you.
I don't have to answer that. She like kind of pipes up, faking haughtiness.
Oh god. You have a little bit of a trickster in you. You might someday take my job from me if you don't inherit the crown.
Well, I'll make sure you're well taken care of. You can take the rocking chair over there and scare all of the little Vorsters with your stories of your adventures. Speaking of which, weren't you out on house business?
I was, in fact, discovered quite a bit of intrigue. In fact, I wanted to ask you about some of it since you're reading up on the old taboos of this island.
Taboos?
You know how in the old years there were stories of raisings from the earth?
You mean the Revenants?
I do.
I just read I just read Darren's survey of necromancy a month ago.
And I put one finger to my nose, which is like our secret code for don't let anyone else know this.
I should tell Morgaine and Suin, unless you already have.
I'll talk to Morgaine, but I need to ask you a question. So we just came back from the rest. And the body's no longer there.
Ah.
Had been gone for some weeks.
And you think it was necromancy? Not grave robbing?
I lean in and whisper, we know for a fact. I don't tell you this to scare you. I trust you have a greater constitution than most other children.
Yeah, I think she makes an old Javelin like sign of protection that can be empowered with magic, but is just kind of is just a culture, like is a cultural thing that everybody does. Which I think would be something like kind of cover the thing from your eyes and then draw it across your collarbone. So she does that really quick, like while she kind of shudders.
It is quite a thing, and we will deal with it, but I wanted to ask you something, since you obviously are spending more time with Morgaine than we can while we're in the field.
Yes, of course. How can I help?
Did you notice how they got the information about that tomb?
That's something you have to ask Morgaine.
Is it because you don't know, or because you won't tell me?
There are things that it's better that they be the one who knows, is what they said. And what Mother said.
And I poke the box of sweets closer to Caitlin. And I say, again, I will talk to them, but... And I'm letting you know this because I trust you. I trust the kind of leader you will be when you have your opportunity. I do not feel good about the source of this information, and I need to know for a fact that it's not going to come back to Morgaine in a way that will be threatening to this house.
And so Caitlin leans in and says softly, "Have you met Zalia?"
Have I?
Zalia is another retainer of House Vorster. Zalia is the eye of Vorster. The eye playbook is the kind of spy thief type. And you have not met Zalia, because Zalia has always been out somewhere doing some kind of work. I think she kind of is known to have trained with / is training with Alonso, who is your courtier.
I say,
yeah, go ahead.
I've seen Zalia out of the corner of my eye, and just as soon as I've turned, gone.
And you've probably seen her other times, but she didn't want you to, so you didn't know it was her.
I'm sure. I take it she was the source?
And Caitlin takes another pastry and bites and gives you a knowing look that says, yes, but I didn't say it, so I won't get in trouble.
And I give Caitlin a very soft kiss on the forehead and go, you should get back to reading then. Tell no one I was here.
And she kind of opens the book back up and kind of addresses the garden and no one in particular. Well, it's such a lovely day. I've been looking at the garden all since the morning.
And now I'm headed all the way to speak to Morgaine.
Okay, and I think Morgaine is up in like a turret of kind of an old,
of
almost
course.
like tower type thing, and like they're wearing like a doublet, like a doublet over a dress. It's kind of juxtaposed and mishmashy, but they carry it off, and have their hair kind of back and pinned up, and appear to be going through correspondence.
And I bow courteously.
Yes, Zilpha.
I wanted to speak to you candidly about our latest errand, if you are available at the moment.
I always have time for you.
I'm very grateful. We've returned from Veterans Rest, discovered some particularly upsetting details that I wanted to verify the provenance of before I share some of its darker aspects. I was wondering if perhaps we might be joined by Zalia?
Well, you're very lucky. She's just come in. And Nara walks in.
Wait one moment.
Wow.
And has changed out of that costume.
Wow.
I grab I grab Zalia's forearm
and throw her out the window
and pull her close and say, now I know why you're so effective, because you're from an effective house.
You nearly broke my cover. I had to come in. Next time, handle your shit on your own.
Noted. Apologies on my part. I take it then that everything that you told me is everything that we all know?
Yes. I've maintained that identity for nearly a year now. I have my ways of being able to be several places when I need to be. And so Zalia is like a very striking kind of pale woman with like wide set eyes, and kind of like a heart-shaped face. It is kind of terrifying, the idea that a woman so classically beautiful in like a turn heads in a ballroom fashion could disappear into costumes like that. that you wonder if there's magic involved. But who knows? And so
necromantic magic. No, just
God.
damn it.
Morgaine kind of takes the pause to ask, I take it this is about the empty grave?
It is.
What do I need to know?
You need to know that Velanso is no longer inside it. And neither is his blade.
I knew
It
about
hasn't been.
the body and the blade,
Did you know that?
or I guessed, I imagined, but how?
I imagined that you had assumed that it had been robbed. It had not been.
I gave you the task because I believed it to be one of propriety and status. You're saying it's more?
Based on what your eye knows and what we saw inside, someone left with Velanso awake.
And
Which is
like next to you, Zalia like kind of has a gasping intake of breath. And Morgaine kind of I think the mask of like the always together scion slips a little bit, and you see like worry cross Morgaine's face.
this is several problems all wrapped in one, as I'm sure you can imagine. Breaking one of the old taboos, whether by classical Valloward magic or something Dialton that even I don't know.
We need to
But
know.
also the fact that if Velanso is awake, that is quite a threat to whoever is on the other end of that blade.
We need to know who did it and what they want. And I need to know what we're going to do about Sapphire. And what we're going to do about Fairest. Sapphire covered it up. And Fairest is the aggrieved.
Either one of them or both of them could have conspired to make the thing possible. It could also have been a lesser house trying to stir up trouble, knowing that they have someone so highly trusted in their care that they can win any skirmish that they wanted, all of which are possibilities. I can't imagine how we answer any of them until we find Velanso.
This is most disconcerting, but this remains a priority, but you may consider the letter of that request sorted, but we have a great deal more that we need to learn. So I would ask that you fit it in between your other duties as best you can, and you may call on Zalia here to help you. And Zalia kind of does the inverted bow that is like standing up to the balls of her feet and back down to standing, and then curtsies and says, "And you may even see me coming."
I prefer it, in fact. All I'd ask is that if you get any information about movements that might have been Velanso's, you let us know so we can act on it as soon as possible. I imagine there will be a great deal of bloodshed in the wake of any of those, so sooner rather than later, yes?
See to it that there is the least bloodshed that can be managed.
Of course. And I turn back to Morgaine and I say, I'm sorry again for disturbing you in this moment.
It is not a disturbance when you come with the house's business. The messengers have done well. Please pass on my gratitude, though I'm afraid you have more digging to do. Not literally. Don't dig up graves if you can avoid it. We will
This
not be
kind of
found out
magic,
to
you
have
know.
broken the compact.
Of course, you know how I feel about denying the dead their rest.
Indeed. Get to it.
I will. And I step away.
Okay. We've got about probably 10 minutes before we want to wrap to XP. So I'd say let's reassemble the group if y'all want to talk a little bit more. I think the way I want to handle this is we will count this errand as being complete, but clearly there is still stuff that y'all need to handle, right?
Just a bit.
And that will
We
let
have
us.
confirmed the situation specific to this tomb being opened. Now we have to answer the question: what do we do about the dead guy?
Right.
And who's got him?
I just think. Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, that's all. I was just gonna say, and who's got him? Like, and who's got the
Yeah.
dead guy?
Well, I was gonna say, I think possibly the best way to track him down is by thinking about the dead guy himself. If somebody stole money, we'd be like, well, they wanted money. Somebody has necromantized Valanso. What's so special about him? Why would somebody benefit from bringing him back? What is their specific need right now? So maybe if we do some more research on Valanso himself and see if there was anything unusual or notable about his knowledge or abilities, then maybe we can sort of back calculate who would want that the most and what they intend to do with it, and therefore who did it.
Yep.
She said vaguely.
Okay. So I think I'm going to do payoff really quick to count this job as completed. This is a ruinous secret found or hidden, which is worth 6 influence. There is 4 already on the house. So the 4 of you have to split up 6 influence somehow on your own sheets. So that can be 1 each, and then 2 people each get a second or something like that.
My vote is for Jansia to get one of the 2 available points of influence.
She certainly put in some work today.
And I would give Zelfa the other.
I would give Zelfa the other one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
That works for me. I think when you have put this matter more fully to rest, I think you will get favor, but not yet. And
do you want us to add XP? Sorry, Mike. Do you want us to add XP now while we're thinking about it, or
so
no?
I'm going to do the payoff parts, and then we're going to roll into XP.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah, this is job payoff, and then we'll do XP. Because
Gotcha.
as I realized that I want to do that now on camera rather than having another scene.
Yeah.
Because I think this is a pretty good note to end on.
Sure.
As is.
I just didn't know if you wanted to redistribute, like just remind us, I guess, when you get to it. Don't forget you have X number of extra XP because of the house thing, whatever is what I meant.
Right.
Yeah.
I will make sure to try to include that.
Okay.
So I think this was 2 exposure, contained, discreet, and sensible, standard exposure. Other people from Sapphire know you were there, even with Nara actually being one of yours. So it's more than only your house is even aware you were dispatched, but it's not more than that. So I'm going to put 2 exposure, which is not very much on there. And then you'll be ready for downtime. I think because we did that very quickly, I will roll entanglements on my own and perhaps keep it secret, as is my wont. But is there anything that anybody wanted to, either a short scene you wanted to frame or a question you wanted to ask before we go to XP here real quick? If something, especially if it's like, oh, I meant to ask X, but we didn't get to do it, or if there's something that somebody wants to flash back to now. Okay.
No, I mean, my assumption is that I don't know about the rest of you. My assumption is that the next time we play this, I don't know. I don't want to feel like I'm zipping through downtime, but I actually really want to follow up with this about what the hell's going on. So like I would that would be my vote for next time, meaning
Yep.
whatever we were going to do, I think we'll say to each other like next, I would imagine. Like
So
started with a fish pond, ended with a resurrected
Yeah.
dude. I mean, like it's, you know.
So in downtime, there is a special activity you can take that's called an intrigue, and intrigue is like a long-term project, but with a bigger scale.
Okay.
And I think addressing this problem of the revenant would make a great intrigue, and then everybody could work on it using your individual downtime actions.
Okay.
Great. So yeah, how's everybody feeling?
This island is already wild enough as it is without bringing the dead back to life.
Yeah, man. The Nara reveal, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, unreal.
I'm not sure if I'm impressed or very upset.
Yeah, like I can imagine.
Very
I was
well
imagining
done.
like Zelfa telling us that, like, I completely was aware the whole time that it was a double agent, and like, but you know,
Nah, I feel like Zalfa will always be the kind of person who'd be like, "You got me. I
Yeah.
didn't see you coming. Well done."
yeah, unbelievable.
So yeah.
I feel like that was really fast. I feel to all of you like it was really fast. I don't mean in a bad way. I just mean that was like, it was like this big thing with the time, and then it's just like, so guess what? So now there's a dead person walking the land. I'm like, what? What just happened? Like, who, where? So it was great. It was a lot of fun, but it was like,
I think,
wow.
especially Blades in the Dark, I have seen other people, they go so fast. They blow through a score in like 45 minutes. And for me, I feel like I get so much more out of it for my own play aesthetics in digging in a bit while still using some of those hard framing tools of like, cool, you're at the graveyard.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
how you get to the graveyard is not interesting to me. Like when I do any of those cuts, if the getting there is interesting to one of you all, like please stop me and say, hey, like I want to do something on the way, or I want to feature something on the way, and like that's totally cool. But the thing that I find so empowering in this style of play is that it tells you, do the scenes you're interested in, and you don't need to do the other scenes as long as the story still flows.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we get to do engagement rolls. We get to do, diagonal wipes across the whole city. We jump back and forth with flashbacks, all of that stuff, which is very fun.
Yeah, good stuff.
Okay, so now we can go to XP, and I think we will start with the house. And again, with XP in this game, you all, the players, are the ones who decide how much XP you get and whether you have satisfied any given XP prompt. I, as a fan of the players and the fan of the characters, may encourage you to take XP for something that you don't think that you should, maybe because I see something in a different way, but ultimately it is going to be your call. Court of Blades has a slower XP progression curve compared to something like Blades in the Dark, the original Forged in the Dark game, because the intent from the Drakes, as they've talked about, is for this game to often have a longer campaign, whereas something like Blades in the Dark, you might get 12, 15, 18 sessions in, and then just the characters are powerful enough that it's much harder to challenge them, and you're looking at something that's more like, a limited series, or like a 12 episode BBC drama or something like that. Though I don't know if BBC dramas go that long. The ones I'm familiar with are more like, 4, 6 or whatever episodes. But if we're able to do this over a long time, you will, definitely get new abilities and become more and more powerful, but hopefully not at such a clip that we aren't able to kind of tell an overarching story that's really satisfying for us and for the audience. And a little bit of that pace is under y'all's control. If you set the bar for XP higher for yourself, you will advance more slowly. So, a little bit is that's going to be up to y'all, just as a kind of a recap and a reminder, because XP works this works very differently than D&D or a lot of like almost any other game that I remember playing from like the 90s into the 2000s, in terms of how this operates. So it's fairly distinct in a cool way. So for the house, the first trigger is you overcame an obstacle with honor or tradition.
I would argue that our collective concerns about breaking the resurrection taboo definitely counts as tradition.
That's true. That's true. I mean, we addressed an obstacle. I don't know that we overcame it yet. we addressed it with tradition.
So, I think at least one initial obstacle was what happened, or how do you find out what happened without like huge implications? The second question, or the second prompt, is you contend with challenges above your current station.
Just a little bit above everyone's station.
Yes. The third, you bolstered your coterie's reputation or developed a new one. Your reputation is daring.
Well, I mean, if people need to publicly know about that, maybe not yet. I mean, I think that we will have done so. I mean, this whole thing was daring, like the setup, the way that we did it, how we chose to arrange it, not bringing in House Sapphire, which I think was the right call now, right off the bat. Like that's that's definitely sort of living our creed, as it were, and kind of building reputation with the rest of the houses when they find out, but they haven't found out yet, right? So
it is arguable that that a coterie can bolster its reputation within its own house, but not to the knowledge of other houses. In which case, the fact that Zalia knows that we were willing to go to Veterans Rest without letting House Sapphire know would bolster our reputation within House Bolster.
That's true, actually. And we, as the messengers, I guess, did get bolstered, right? Like, I mean, they went out of their way, like, good job, like Morgaine said themselves. So, like, okay, so yeah, we did then.
Okay.
Go us.
The fourth says you expressed the goals, drives, inner conflict, or essential nature of the coterie.
All four. Goals, drives, inner conflict, and the essential nature.
I'm curious for y'all, what moment do you feel like expressed that essential nature of the coterie, and kind of why? Like, I'd love to hear about that, because it's early enough that we're still kind of solidifying what that essential nature is. Or any of these other prompts: goals, drives, inner conflict.
I have a thought, but I don't want to keep talking over everyone. Go ahead, Brandon.
So a thing that stood out to me, I think, because one of our unique upgrades is incorruptible. Well, in fact, well, kind of. I would think that, like, part of our essential nature is the fact that we have such, like, weirdly disparate connections to the history of Valloward as a territory, and still ultimately agree about things that are untoward or unfashionable about that space. Like,
right.
We don't know how Valanzo got resurrected, and we don't know what anybody would do that with that information, but we know that all of that sucks. And I feel like a lot of the interplay between us around the ways in which we clash individually, but the ways in which we mesh as an entire group is actually very interesting, and I like playing with that very strongly. So I feel like that plays into our essential nature in a kind of sense.
I mean, mechanically, getting into the tomb was a perfect example of what we all do, right? I mean, I had the thing where I saw the particular break. Gensia is spending her time figuring out the stuff with the ward and is right in there with the necromantic magic. And otherwise we'd be like, wow, this seems ominous, everybody. Like, Gensia's like, no. Do you know what's going on here, right? And Lutris and I are both sort of doing the kind of physical portion of that, while Zelfa is talking up, admittedly, with a double agent. We didn't figure out it was a double agent, but, like, the point was going to convince. I mean, I think if you want, like, what the team looks like, that's what the team looks like. The only thing we didn't do is face down combat wise, where a Bravo's got the sword out or whatever. But I think absolutely we express those. I mean, and if we don't get that, we sure do. Did we protect Valloward or interest? Because this is exactly what we're worried about, right? So either way, I think we get the 4 XP because of that maximum, I think.
Rhiannon, Premee, how does that sound to you?
Yeah, good.
I'm not getting Premee's audio. Are y'all?
No.
Let's see. Now I see a mute. Okay. We'll come back to Premee and hopefully she'll be able to troubleshoot that. So it sounds like that is yes to all of those. So that is 5 XP prompts because you took the Old Guard special ability that gives you an extra XP prompt. So.
Oh yeah.
Anybody hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry, I was going to say, Mike said something earlier about Vorster kind of being the, like the security or whatever for the islands. And I was like, oh, all cops are Vorsters. But I think it's possible that our essential nature is not really like cops, that we're not really the police. What we're interested in is like justice, that the right thing is done, that people, we may... we're part of a powerful house. We know the uses of power and we know how power can be abused. But when we see it being abused to the detriment of Valloward itself, I think our essential nature and our drive is that we have to step in and right the wrong if that's in our ability. And I think that's sort of instinctive for all of us, is we don't like to see injustice just sit.
Yep. And I'd argue we have a better way to know that than any other house in
I
Valloward
agree.
because we're the first ones to get here. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
It fits with it fits with the Old Guard. It's not the sort of new cop, right, as much as it is the neighborhood protector who's been there for 40 years and knows exactly like who everyone's name is and like on that type of thing.
Yeah.
And that person is someone you listen to because they do give a damn about the entire neighborhood. So
Yeah. And we're more like especially in this one, we're more like Sherlock Holmes anyway than like a cop. We're finding things out. We're not out there smushing somebody's face into the gutter for no reason.
Yeah. When Kareva
Sometimes do it for a reason.
when Kareva stabs somebody, it's not the state stabbing that person.
No. It's justice stabbing that person.
Oh god.
Like
It's
there's
sometimes a
I'm
grudge
sorry,
stabbing that
I
person.
couldn't say that, keep a straight face. No, but yeah, like,
Yeah.
Cool. And yeah, that's
they get the
a
point, Brandon.
good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Premee, I really like that because it's an important, like it's not deflecting the question of like responsibility and things like that. It is thinking about what is that differentiation, like how and why and to what degree is there a difference? Of course, understanding that Valloward's history is distinct in many ways from our own history, and so like the specific circumstances that lead to especially U.S. American policing being super terrible. Like these are different contexts.
Yeah, and I also thought of kind of what Zelfa said at the start too, is part of our motivation for doing this so quickly and like jumping off our balcony was that we perceived that the veterans here were laid to rest, and now that rest is being interrupted and desecrated, and we found that offensive.
Yeah, and that I forget, was it Brandon who said the thing about peace? Yeah, I think it's what you're referring to, but the idea that, but especially that they deserve peace after the conflict they engaged in, and that might also be important to us because, again, more than any other house, we know what happens when things descend back into war. We're just going to spend the next hour talking about how awesome House Forster is, Mike. Don't mind us. We're just going to. It's just House Forster nostalgia time, y'all. Let's
right.
go.
This is one of the things that I really like about this style of doing XP is because we basically recap the session to ourselves. We shout each other out for cool moments that the characters did, and we reflect on how we told the story and the direction that those intents and actions were pointed in, and allow us to reflect on kind of the themes and concepts that we're interested in exploring in the campaign as we have been doing them. So very nicely done. That's all very cool. You were at 9 of 10 on the Coterie XP track. So that has filled cleared, and now you have 4, and I have made a note in the Discord that you have an advance. Let's do individual XP, and then depending on where we are, we might be able to talk a little bit about that coterie advance.
Awesome.
So, Greg, if I can come to you first for Karevis.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, you addressed a challenge with violence. No. And or panache. Well, it was a really lovely fish pond. No, I probably not, because I wasn't front and center here, doing stuff in this particular case. So I'd say no. I 1,000,000% express my beliefs drives heritage or background, and I think both reflective in trying to. And I immediately had the idea when Gensio was doing stuff on the magic side that it made sense then to be looking for physical entrance into the tomb or not, and also felt very much like I was trying to back up House Forster in general and wanted to make sure. The reason I wanted Zelfa to go check things out with Morgaine, I didn't actually think Morgaine was a problem, but I wanted to make 100% sure, because I really do think House Forster is actually pretty much the good folks in this scenario, which is a pleasant experience rather than everyone is dangerous and like I may have written a book about an organization not being trustworthy. So like I'm glad that wasn't the case. So but I was doing that literally because I take very seriously that House Forster is kind of a force for justice and kind of like not forgetting those things in the process of advancement of society. So I think I did express my beliefs drives in that way.
Yeah. The last one is you struggle with issues from your indulgences or scandals, and your indulgence is faith.
I mean, the thing with Morgaine, maybe.
Yeah,
the only problem is I feel like I'm having that both ways, though, because I feel like I'm saying I didn't distrust Morgaine, but it was like a trust but verify thing. So right. I don't know. I don't know whether that fits with faith or not.
And
I don't know.
In the downtime, your scene with Cartagano, you were kind of having a crisis of faith in yourself. And I'm curious if you feel that manifested today.
I mean, but the thing is, it would have if Morgaine had been dirty.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
But like, because Morgaine wasn't, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not trying to talk myself out of XP, but I'm sure there'll be other times where I'll get a lot. I felt like this is why the house was getting a ton of XP, right. But I felt like I was more, not in the same way.
Yeah, I asked that not as a leading question, but just as, because, you all can be expressing things without me necessarily noticing.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to like speak for you in circumstances like this. So it sounds like maybe today Karevis gets just 1 XP.
Yeah.
But there'll be plenty of chances for violence and panache. I promise you this.
I'm not worried about it. Remind me where I put do I put it in either body, spirit, or the character expert or whatever it is? Body, mind, spirit. Oh my God, what did I just do?
Correct. Oh,
I accidentally did something I shouldn't have done. I added like 1 billion points to mind.
So there's the character XP track at the top right, and then there's the 3 individual attribute tracks. So you could divide those up between those 4 however you see fit. So you can put 1 in any of those.
Okay.
From
I'm
today.
Keep pushing for body and see what we can get. Okay.
All right. And we go to Lutris. So
okay. Did I address a challenge with evasion and or mayhem? Mayhem was a little low this time.
Low mayhem.
Yeah, you chose the quiet way of opening that sarcophagus as opposed to the mayhem way.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about evasion either. I think again, as a non-magical person, I didn't have as big a role to play in this adventure.
Right.
So maybe not that one. You expressed your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background. I think certainly my belief that desecrating a tomb is a despicable thing to do, and I would like to get to the bottom of it, because I did initially go in thinking that it was a grave robbery, which is a horrible thing to do.
Yeah.
So maybe that one.
The other thing to keep in mind is your bonds, which I count as beliefs. So that's for anybody. But beliefs, drives, heritage, or background is 4 chances to get 1 XP.
Yeah.
So that one is not especially hard. And the last option, you struggle with issues from indulgence or scandals. Your
Not the same.
indulgence is gambling, so
Yeah.
not so
Not the
much
same.
on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd say 1. 1-ish.
Yep.
We'll round up to 1.
Right. All right. And we'll go to Gensia. So
address challenge with arcane knowledge, I would say yes.
Just
And
a bit.
power, I would also say yes.
yes, definitely just a Gensia spotlight day.
Yeah, thank you. And then the express your beliefs, drives, heritage, or background, I would say yes. And I think in a particular way where that came out was sort of her focus on magic, but then also needing to share that knowledge, and sort of that's her drive, is that she can be single-minded but needs to share that information. So I feel like that was coming out.
Right. And you struggled with indulgences or scandals. Your indulgence is weird.
Yeah, no, didn't come up.
So that would be 3 for Gensia, which you can divide up as you see fit between your playbook and the attribute tracks. Okay. And then lastly, we come to Zelfa. You addressed a challenge with expertise and or calculation.
Not expertise is a hard sell, I'd reckon. But calculation I did a lot of. Talking to Nara, talking to Caitlin definitely counts as calculation to me.
Okay.
But I don't think I expressed a great deal of expertise this session.
When you were
I didn't
talking
know
to Nara,
a lot
when you
or
were talking-
prove a lot.
You thought
yeah.
you did.
Right. And you didn't really have to, you had to push a little bit with Caitlin, but not so much. I did not make you roll for that because we've already established that you had that very strong relationship with her. Did you struggle with issues from indulgences or scandals? Obligation. We got to feature obligation last time with lots of Dialta stuff.
Not so much this time.
Okay. And beliefs, drives, heritage, or background?
Definitely feel like my intense objection toward necromancy is defined by being Dialta. Like this, I am genuinely perturbed by the entire idea. Everybody else is thinking about the political consequences of having Valanzo alive. I'm like, no, but the thing that matters is he should be dead. He should be asleep right now. Let's let him sleep.
Yeah. Do you think that this is something entirely either unknown or eschewed by Dialta to Zelfa's knowledge?
I think, because the thing that I think is, like most other magic, I think that there is a Dialta way to resurrect someone, and there is a Valloward way to resurrect someone, and it doesn't matter to me which is which. But it does matter to me that I also know as a result that the only condition under which it would be like justifiable to resurrect someone is if they're the only people who know an answer to a question, and you're going to put them back to rest immediately afterwards.
Right. More like so. Zelfa's stance on resurrection is reference library only, no checkout.
Right. Yeah. Like that was when everyone else was using the book metaphor. My internet prevented me from saying, "You don't give books knives."
Now that's going to be that goes on my list of things to put on merch.
Don't give books knives.
Excellent. So that is.
I think I got 3.
Yeah. Cool.
which means that I filled my character XP track and gained 2 more, and I already have some ideas about what ability I would like to take as a result.
Okay. I think because we are at 20 after, I'm going to go ahead and suggest that we do our outros and wrap up for the night. I am going to do this thing real quick, and then...
and we'll figure out the Vorster thing next time, you mean? The extra...
yeah.
Okay.
Unless anyone has strong ideas, because I think this may be a more than 10-minute conversation, depending. Okay. If need be, we can have that. We can kind of conclude that conversation at the start of next session. Okay. Okay. Actually, I'm going to go first here and do my outros, and then I will go around so that Greg may take us out. I have been Mike Underwood, the dancing master for this campaign. This is Valloward, a game of Court of Blades. Court of Blades is a game by a couple of Drakes, and the couple of Drakes have been very kind in supporting us with the lovely intro video that you saw, and you will see after we finish, potentially, as well as kind of the overlay assets that we have modified and that you see here today that Greg has been doing as our producer, for which I am also grateful that he is able to wear both hats. It is very nice to not have to produce while GMing. So it's good that we have all three of us knowing how to do that. Yeah, we will hopefully be back with another session of Valloward in like sometime in the middle of February. We are still finalizing scheduling, but I will let you know via the Speculate Twitter, which you can find at SpeculateSF there. You can find our website at speculatesf.com, and the RSS feed for our podcast is back and is currently getting new episodes, rounding out the end of our series Fractal Spire, a game of Girl by Moonlight. I am a writer, podcaster, and professional GM, and you can find me on Twitter at Mike R. Underwood. Over to Premee.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, Premee Mohamed, still, as per my intro. The next thing I have coming out is my short story collection, which is with Undertow Publications, and that'll be coming out in May 2023, and is called No One Will Come Back for Us and Other Stories, which I think is just such a cheerful, happy title. And yeah, I also have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/Premee, and if you want, you can find me on Twitter at Premeesaurus and on my website at premeemohamed.com.
I've been Rhiannon Held, and you can find me at Rhiannon Held on Twitter, rhiannonheld.com. I'm also in an actual play, a D&D 5e, Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific. The Dungeon Scrawlers were also authors playing D&D. And if you like Discord, Dungeon Scrawlers has a Discord, and I hang out on there. And as far as my books, I have just finished my space opera novella series. So if you're somebody who likes complete series, check that out. It's the Amsterdam Institute series under RZ Held.
Hello everyone, it is I, Brandon O'Brien. I am a poet, writer, and game designer from Trinidad and Tobago, as well as one of the co-hosts of Speculate alongside Mike and Greg. I am doing a lot of tabletop stuff presently. Fractal Spire has just concluded, so again, if you'd like to go to speculatesf.com and listen to the entirety of our Girl by Moonlight series, please do that. I am playing in Court of Blades, as you have just seen, and I hope that you enjoy that and continue taking in more of that as well. On YouTube right now, you can watch the very first episode now of Arcanites, a Power Rangers actual play series being hosted by the Initiative Order, which was absolutely very rad, and I hope that you will check that out as well. Our next session will be coming up 3 Mondays from now, if I'm not mistaken. So please keep your eye out for that. And a thing will be happening in May that I can't tell you anything about yet. But when that also happens, you will also be very excited for that. And all I'm going to tell you about that is, um, the rich, the rich and powerful take whatever they want, but I will help you take them back, take those things back from them. And yeah, I wrote a poetry collection called Can You Sign My Tentacle, which is available from Interstellar Flight Press, and I hope that you buy the thing. Also, I make some of my own games on itch.io, the Rising Tides.itch.io, and I will also be working on the Grey Shade RPG alongside our good friend Gregory A. Wilson. So please check that out as well, which you can get more information about at !Grey Shade, and that's me.
Which is super, super exciting. I will outro these folks in just a sec. I am Gregory Wilson. I am Arvin Eleron on this channel. I, as Gregory Wilson, am one of the 3 co-hosts of Speculate. As previously mentioned, I am an author and college professor. I write and teach speculative fiction. And as has been mentioned, I have a series of novels called the Grey Assassin Trilogy. Book 2, Renegade, is coming out later this year. At Book 3, Heretic, will be out next year. And the Grey Shade TTRPG, as previously mentioned, is coming out later this year and is going to be badass, y'all. You'll want to check that out. Also, the audiobook from our very own Trent Sparks is going to be coming out in a few months as well, of Grey Shade. So I'm hoping for the year of Grey Shade this year. I'm very excited for it. One hopes. But otherwise, yeah, you will see more from this channel, including, let me just say quickly, Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks, sponsored by Alligator Alley, which is also releasing Grey Shade later this year. Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks is coming tomorrow when we get back with the crew. And so if you want to see a group of people going through a truly bizarre, wild, and amazing world in which both space and Dungeons and Dragons clash in marvelous ways, in an homage to Expedition from the Barrier Peaks from back in the 80s, that classic adventure, then you should check it out tomorrow because we're proud of it and we think that's good too. Otherwise, chat, I will outro you folks, but I'm going to say goodbye to the audio listeners of this who might be listening and say goodbye to our wonderful players. So can we get some love for the awesome GM work, dancing master work from Mike tonight? Great work, Mike, and thank you to my wonderful player colleagues here, Rhiannon, Premee, Brandon. Thank you all so much, players and GM, and I will see you folks soon. Bye for now. All right. And that, folks, is going to do it for us for today. A lot of fun. I do enjoy Court of Blades quite a bit. I like Karevis. There's a part of me that sort of kind of wishes on a little bit of a level that I was kind of a Karevis type. There are a lot of things that are fun about playing him, and I really enjoy the discussions that are happening kind of like behind the scenes, the reactions of people. Premee is like amazing for reactions behind the scenes in the green room, so to speak. It's really great. So anyway, but thanks also to chat for being amazing. I was really enjoying all the discussions going on, not just about adventures, but things like cinnamon sugar pastries and pretzels and stuff like that. It was a good time. If you like what you saw and heard, please follow my channel and do all those things that you know how to do, but I'm not going to emphasize my channel today because on a Speculate stream, I want to make sure that we're emphasizing them. So please do support Speculate. We had a really successful fundraiser. We're up now to 13 patrons, 55 per month, which is great. And we also raised money for Speculate, which is allowing us to pay for audio editing and the like. But we did have a website issue. We've had to transition to something new. So any support that people can give to Speculate is helpful. Plus, you can get behind the scenes stuff there as well with !Speculate SF. Yeah, I know there were other stuff behind the scenes, but there's a lot of front of the stage expressions that we get to. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So you should definitely check that out as well. Yeah, make sure that you do all that as always. As I always say, !BLM, Black Lives Matter. Important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives. !Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Important to reach out to others when you need help and reach out to others when they need help as well. And also Ukraine, the fine people of Ukraine as they fight back against an illegal and illegitimate war. This is one way for us to help them fight back and send the message that we will do the same thing in other situations also. As I said, I'll be back tomorrow at around 7:30 p.m. Eastern for more Expedition from from the Mysterious Peaks. And then please don't forget, next Tuesday, less than, whatever it is, four days or so, it is the premiere of Shire Adventures on Tuesday, January 31st. Remember, please, programming note, 5 to 8 p.m. Eastern, a little later than normal, is going to be the launch of Shire Adventures, sponsored by Free League. We're very excited about this, and I've seen the video. The intro video is done, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really great. So I'm excited about that, and you folks should check that out. Otherwise, I just want to say have a lovely good night to everyone. Thank you to my wonderful mods, Rhiannon, Drew the Damager. Thank you to Emily. Thank you to Prince Justin, the Rising Tides, of course, Triffity Mats, Turbo Tango. Thank you to the best mods in the business. Thank you to my Patreon supporters and subscribers, Rhiannon, Drew, Emily, Prince Justin. Thanks for the gift sub as well to Premee Mohamed, Prince Justin, Rising Tides, Triffity Mats, Turbo Tango, Mrs. Dunsel, Premisaurus. Thank you as well to 01 Ella, to Abjui. Thank you to Artemis, a player. Thank you to Avisemaphore. Thank you to Big Damn Judge, to Chaotix. What's up, Chaotix? Thank you to Darksteel Spork, Dragon Spear, Jagtris. Dragon Spear is a mod, of course. I don't know why he's down there. It was lurking. Jagtris, Kata, Madison, and of course, QCG Aaron from Queen's Court Games. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to the Drakes for sponsoring us in this campaign. And thank you most of all tonight to our dancing master, Michael R. Underwood, and to Rhiannon Held, to Premee Mohamed and Brendan O'Brien, my fellow players, as we continue with Valloward. And I'm sure the fact that a dead person is walking on the streets now of the city is completely fine and won't have any long problems. I can't imagine there'll be any issues at all. No raid tonight. We will probably do a raid tomorrow. So today I will simply say thank you, everybody, for being amazing. Please support Speculate, and I'll be back here with Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks tomorrow evening at 7:30 p.m. Please spread the word to friends, family, and distant relations, and let people know about this exciting adventure. More Speculate to come next month. Until I talk to you folks next time, everyone, please be good to each other, and I'll see you folks soon. Bye for now.
Welcome, dearest retainers, to Court of Blades, and welcome to Valloward, the greatest city in this or any other age. A city where hearts race and swords flash, where intrigue and danger lie around every corner. Centuries ago, celebrated veterans were given title to Valor Isle, a place long abandoned by its first residents. Here, the heroes found ancient secrets, bountiful land, and a fruit bearing oracular gifts. Generations later, 6 families vie for ultimate control of this jewel of the archipelago, each seeking to lead the great dance of houses. A new retinue rises to clash with flashing blades, veiled plots, and powerful magics in pursuit of their house's interests and their own secret ambitions. Speculate presents Valloward, a Court of Blades campaign, starring Premee Mohamed, Marie Bilodeau, Brandon O'Brien, Gregory A. Wilson, and your dancing master, Michael R. Underwood. Be welcome, retainer. Get comfortable, but not too comfortable. It's time for Court of Blades.